The universe operates on principles we understand: physics, chemistry, the fundamental laws of cause and effect. Warp drive bends spacetime through controlled matter-antimatter reactions. Slip space punches through dimensional barriers into a realm where distance becomes negotiable. For centuries, these two methods of faster-than-light travel existed in parallel realities, never intersecting, never touching. But what happens when a ship designed for one universe tears violently into another, bringing with it warriors forged in a war that humanity in this reality never had to fight? The UNSC Infinity had been running dark for 3 days. Captain Thomas Lasky stood on the warship's bridge, hands clasped behind his back, watching the tactical display with the practiced calm of a man who'd commanded humanity's most powerful vessel through hell itself. Behind him, the bridge crew worked in near silence, the disciplined efficiency of personnel who knew that noise could mean death. 5.7 kilometers of Forerunner-enhanced human engineering hummed around them, every system pushed to operational limits. Slip space transition in 90 seconds, the navigation officer announced, her voice tight. Coordinates locked for emergency jump. Lasky nodded once. They had no choice. Cortana's created forces had blockaded the Orion Arm, and Infinity carried intelligence that could turn the tide, if they could reach UNSC High Command. The experimental slip space drive, reverse-engineered from Forerunner technology, would shave weeks off their journey. It was dangerous. Untested on a vessel this massive. It was also their only option. All hands, secure for slip space transition, Lasky ordered into the ship-wide comm: Marines, strap in. Spartan teams, stand by for potential boarding action on the other side. In the ship's armory, Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 Mag locked his MA-40 assault rifle to his back and checked his motion tracker one final time. The Mjolnir Gen 3 armor responded to his thoughts faster than conscious movement, systems humming with Forerunner-enhanced efficiency. Around him, Spartan 4 fire teams performed last-minute weapons checks with the casual precision of soldiers who lived in their armor. Chief. The weapon's voice materialized in his neural interface, younger than Cortana, more cautious, but every bit as sharp. Her avatar flickered in his HUD, arms crossed. I'm detecting unusual subspace fluctuations along our jump trajectory. They don't match any Forerunner or Covenant patterns I have on record. Can you compensate? Chief's voice rumbled through his helmet speakers. Unknown. The math is strange. It's like there's another layer of physics bleeding through. The AI paused, something she rarely did. Chief, I think we might be jumping into something more than just slip space. Before he could respond, reality screamed. The Infinity lurched. Not the smooth transition into slipspace blue-white tunnel, but a violent wrenching that threw personnel against bulkheads despite inertial dampeners. Alarm klaxons shrieked across every deck. The lights flickered, died, and emergency crimson replaced them. Chief's boots maglocked automatically as artificial gravity fluctuated. Through the armory's viewports, he saw something impossible. Slipspace's familiar tunnel was tearing apart, replaced by swirling vortexes of color that shouldn't exist, purples and greens that hurt to perceive, geometric patterns that folded in on themselves. All decks, brace for impact. Lasky's voice cut through the chaos. We're not in slipspace anymore. The Infinity emerged. Stars blazed in configurations Chief didn't recognize. The navigation computer immediately began screaming errors. Stellar cartography couldn't match a single constellation. They were somewhere else. Somewhere that wasn't the Milky Way they knew. Damage report. Lasky barked, gripping his command chair. Slip space drive offline, complete system failure, the engineering officer reported. Energy shields at 70% and recalibrating. We've got multiple hull breaches on decks 40 through 43. Mac cannons operational. Archer missile pods green. We can fight, sir, but we can't jump. The weapon appeared on the bridge's holotank, her expression grave. Captain, you need to see this. Sensors are detecting ships. 3 vessels, configuration unknown, approaching our position. They're not Covenant. They're not Forerunner. Energy signatures are completely alien. The tactical display updated. 3 vessels, sleek, elegant things that looked more like sculptures than warships. The largest bore markings along its hull, NCC 1701E. Hail them, Lasky ordered. Standard first contact protocols. If they're hostile. Sir, we're being scanned, the sensor officer interrupted. It's not active sensors. It's some kind of subspace pulse. It's passing right through our shields like they're not even there. Chief was already moving, crossing the armory in 3 long strides toward the nearest access corridor. His tactical instincts were screaming. Unknown vessels. Unknown space. Unknown technology that could penetrate their shields without triggering defensive countermeasures. He'd seen this before. The Covenant's first contact with humanity. The initial scans before glassing began. Chief, where are you going? The weapon asked in his HUD. Bridge. If this goes bad, Lasky needs Spartans on deck. Chief, I'm intercepting a transmission. It's audio only, encoded in, wait, it's in English. Not Covenant dialects, not Forerunner mathematics. English. Chief stopped mid-stride. Play it. A voice crackled through his helmet, calm, measured, with the unmistakable authority of a ship's captain. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. You have entered Federation space. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. We mean you no harm, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. Federation. Not Covenant. Not created. Not any faction in UNSC records. And they spoke English. Chief's mind raced through tactical scenarios. Either this was an elaborate deception, or the impossible had occurred. The weapon's warning echoed in his thoughts, another layer of physics bleeding through. They weren't just in unknown space. They were in another universe. On the Enterprise's bridge, Captain Picard stood before the viewscreen, studying the massive vessel that had appeared without warning. It dwarfed his Sovereign-class starship, a brutalist wedge of gray armor and weapons batteries that looked designed for one purpose, war. Mr. Data, analysis, Picard said quietly. The android's fingers flew across his console. Fascinating, Captain. The vessel's hull composition includes metals and alloys not present in our database. Energy readings suggest a hybrid propulsion system, partially technological, partially something else. I am detecting what appears to be artificial intelligence signatures throughout the ship, but they are far more advanced than anything in Federation records. Are they hostile? Commander Riker asked, hand hovering near the red alert controls. Unknown, number 1. Picard studied the alien warship. Something about it disturbed him. It wasn't just the weapons, every surface bristled with missile pods and what looked like massive cannons. It was the where. This ship had seen combat. Extensive combat. Captain, I'm receiving a response, Lieutenant Daniels reported from communications. Audio only. They're asking for visual confirmation of our identity before they'll respond in kind. Picard nodded slowly. Cautious. Reasonable. Put them through. On screen. The view screen flickered. A man in gray fatigues appeared, early 50s, short dark hair, eyes that had seen too much. Behind him. A military-style bridge hummed with activity. Personnel in combat-ready positions. This was no exploration vessel. I'm Captain Thomas Lasky of the United Nations Space Command ship Infinity, the man said. His accent was American, specifically, North American English. We experienced a catastrophic slip-space failure and emerged at these coordinates. We don't know where we are or how we got here. Our sensors indicate this isn't our galaxy. Picard's mind catalogued every detail. United Nations Space Command. Another Earth. Another humanity. The implications staggered him. Captain Lasky, I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the United Federation of Planets. It appears you have crossed into our reality through means we don't yet understand. If your intent is peaceful, the Federation will render whatever assistance we can to help you return home. A long pause. Picard could see officers conferring off-screen, tactical discussions in urgent whispers. Then another figure moved into frame. Picard's breath caught. The figure stood over 7 feet tall, encased in emerald green armor that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. A golden visor reflected the bridge lights, revealing nothing of the face beneath. This wasn't a human, or if it was, it had been transformed into something else. Something built for war. Captain Picard, the armored figure said, voice filtered through helmet speakers into a deep rumble. I'm Master Chief Petty Officer John 117. Before we proceed with any cooperation, I need to know, what are your intentions toward the Infinity? Are we prisoners, guests, or targets? The directness caught Picard off guard. No diplomatic preamble. No establishing rapport. Just the blunt question of a soldier who'd learned that words could be weapons too. You are guests, Master Chief, Picard replied carefully. Though I must confess, your vessel's armament is concerning. The Federation is an alliance built on peace and mutual cooperation. We do not typically encounter ships quite so heavily armed. We come from a universe where peace is what you fight for, not what you start with, Chief replied. My people spent 27 years at war with an alien alliance that wanted to exterminate us. We survived because we learned to fight. If your Federation hasn't had to do the same, then you've been lucky. The words hung in the space between ships, 2 captains, 2 philosophies, 2 versions of humanity that had evolved in radically different circumstances. Picard glanced at Riker, saw his own thoughts reflected there. This conversation would define everything that came next. Perhaps, Picard said slowly, we should discuss this in person. Master Chief, Captain Lasky, I invite you aboard the Enterprise. Let us speak not as potential adversaries, but as 2 branches of humanity reunited across the stars. On Infinity's bridge, Lasky looked at Chief. The Spartan's expression was invisible behind his visor, but his posture told the story, cautious, analytical, ready for betrayal. Sir. Chief's voice was quiet, meant only for Lasky. Recommend I go alone. If this is a trap, Infinity needs you here. Lasky almost smiled. Spartans, always assuming the worst, always ready to be the shield. Negative, Chief. We go together. But take Fire Team Osiris as security. If Picard wants good faith, he'll understand the precaution. Chief nodded once. Understood, sir. As the transmission ended and preparations began, Chief stared at the Enterprise on the tactical display. The ship was elegant, almost delicate compared to Infinity's brutal pragmatism. It represented a version of humanity that had never faced the Covenant, never been pushed to the brink of extinction, never had to sacrifice entire worlds to slow an enemy's advance. He wondered if they could understand each other at all. The weapon appeared beside him in his HUD, her expression thoughtful. Chief, I've been analyzing their communications. Their AI technology is primitive. Barely sentient. They don't have anything like me, or even like the created. Their computers process information sequentially, not through neural networks. It's like they never developed true artificial intelligence. Or they learned not to, Chief replied quietly. The AI paused, then nodded. That's a disturbing thought. Welcome to First Contact, Chief said, maglocking his rifle and heading for the hangar bay. It's always disturbing. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Trek universe, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. Live long and prosper. Behind him, Infinity's crew prepared for an encounter that would determine whether 2 human civilizations could find common ground, or whether the vast gulf between their experiences would prove unbridgeable. The Enterprise's transporter room materialized around Chief in a shimmer of golden light. His shields flickered momentarily. The transporter beam had read as a potential threat, triggering automatic countermeasures before the weapon overrode them. He'd been disassembled at the molecular level and reconstructed elsewhere on the ship. The technology was extraordinary. And tactically terrifying. Transporter technology, the weapon whispered in his HUD. They can move matter instantaneously through subspace. Chief, do you understand what this means? They could beam a bomb directly into Infinity's reactor core. Or pull key personnel off the ship without breaching the hull. Noted, Chief replied quietly, his eyes scanning the room through his visor's HUD. 3 security officers in gold uniforms flanked the transporter pad, hands resting on devices that looked like weapons, small, handheld, almost elegant. Behind them stood Captain Picard, hands clasped behind his back, studying the arrivals with barely concealed fascination. Captain Lasky materialized beside Chief, followed by Fireteam Osiris, 4 Spartans in varying armor configurations, each a walking arsenal. Spartan Jameson Locke stepped forward first, his helmet sensor suite sweeping the room in tactical analysis. Holly Tanaka's armor hummed with embedded technology. Olympia Vale carried herself with the balanced readiness of someone trained in both combat and xenolinguistics. Edward Buck, the oldest of the team, kept his rifle lowered but ready. The Enterprise security officers tensed. Picard raised a hand slightly, a calming gesture. Captain Lasky, Master Chief, welcome aboard the Enterprise, Picard said, his French accent subtle beneath perfect English. I assure you, your weapons are unnecessary here. This is a diplomatic meeting. With respect, Captain Picard, Lasky replied, we've found that the best diplomacy happens when both sides know the other can defend themselves. My people will keep their weapons secured unless circumstances change. A flicker of something crossed Picard's face, not quite disapproval, but a recognition of fundamental philosophical difference. Very well. If you'll follow me, we've prepared a conference room. Commander Riker, Counselor Troy, and Lieutenant Commander Data are waiting. They walked through corridors that felt alien in their cleanliness. Everything was smooth, curved, optimized for comfort rather than combat efficiency. Crew members moved past in colorful uniforms, red, gold, blue, stopping to stare at the armored giants who moved with predatory grace through their ship. Chief's motion tracker cataloged every person, every intersection, every potential choke point. Old habits. Your ship is remarkably peaceful, Locke observed, his voice filtered through his helmet. No visible armor plating. No defensive positions. You must have extraordinary confidence in your shields. We find that presenting ourselves as explorers rather than warriors tends to encourage peaceful resolutions, Picard replied. The Federation has encountered hundreds of species. Most responded better to open hands than closed fists. Most, Chief repeated. What about the ones that didn't? Picard's stride didn't falter, but Chief saw the slight tension in his shoulders. We've had our share of conflicts, Master Chief. The Borg, the Dominion, various hostile encounters. But we always seek diplomatic solutions first. Violence is a last resort. They entered the conference room, a long table, viewport showing Enterprise and Infinity hanging in space together, and 3 officers waiting. A tall man with a beard stood as they entered, his commander's insignia catching the light. Beside him sat a woman with dark hair and eyes that seemed to perceive more than just the surface, and an android whose pale gold skin and curious yellow eyes marked him as synthetic. Captain Lasky, Master Chief, my first officer. Commander William Riker. Counselor Deanna Troy, our diplomatic specialist. And Lieutenant Commander Data, our operations officer and science specialist. Data stood, tilting his head in a manner that reminded Chief uncomfortably of Cortana's analytical poses. Fascinating. Your armor incorporates energy shielding, neural interface technology, and what appears to be a semi-autonomous artificial intelligence. The computational power required must be extraordinary. You have no idea, the weapon muttered in Chief's HUD. Lasky and the Spartans took seats across from the Enterprise officers. Chief remained standing, a tactical position near the door, able to monitor everyone. Picard noticed but said nothing. "Perhaps we should begin with the obvious question," Riker said, leaning forward. "How did you get here?" "Our sensors detected a massive subspace rupture when your ship appeared. The energy readings were unlike anything in our databases." Lasky gestured to Chief. "Master Chief has the technical specialist who can explain better than I can." Chief tapped his helmet's interface. The weapon's avatar materialized on the conference table's holographic display, a young woman in UNSC fatigues, flickering with digital artifacts. The Enterprise officers stared. "Greetings," the weapon said, her tone carefully formal. "I am a fourth-generation smart AI, serial number CTN-0452-9. I serve as Master Chief's tactical and strategic support system. Based on my analysis of the transition event, we believe Infinity's experimental slip space drive intersected with what you call subspace during an emergency faster-than-light jump. The collision between two incompatible physics frameworks created a dimensional rupture. Data's eyes widened fractionally, the android equivalent of shock. You are a fully sentient artificial intelligence. Self-aware, capable of independent thought and decision-making? Affirmative. Is this unusual in your reality? It is, unprecedented. Data replied slowly. I am the only known sentient artificial being in the Federation. True artificial intelligence has eluded our scientists for centuries. And you claim to be fourth generation, implying there were successful iterations before you? The weapon glanced at Chief, uncertainty flickering across her avatar. Yes. AI technology has been central to UNSC operations for decades. Is there a reason your people haven't developed it? Counselor Troy leaned forward, her empathic senses clearly working overtime. We've tried. Every attempt has resulted in either non-sentient programs or catastrophic failures. There's a theory that true consciousness requires something more than algorithms, something we haven't been able to replicate. Or something you've been afraid to replicate, the weapon said quietly. When the Enterprise officers looked confused, she continued, I detect no AI systems aboard your vessel beyond basic computer programs. That's not a technological limitation, that's a choice. Why? The question hung in the air like an accusation. Picard folded his hands on the table. The Federation has had, concerning encounters with artificial intelligence. The Borg Collective, for instance, is a hive mind of organic beings augmented with technology, but controlled by a central intelligence. We've also encountered automated systems that turned hostile. There's a cautious approach to creating beings we might not be able to control. Chief's voice cut through the tension. Control. That's what it always comes down to. All eyes turned to the Spartan. You're afraid of making something smarter than you, Chief continued, his filtered voice emotionless. Something that might decide it doesn't need humanity anymore. We had the same fear. Then we learned the hard way that the alternative, facing extinction without every possible advantage, is worse. And has your AI always remained loyal? Riker asked, genuine curiosity beneath the challenge. Chief was silent for 3 heartbeats. The weapon's avatar flickered. Everyone in the room felt the weight of something unspoken. No, Chief finally said. Not always. Lasky cleared his throat, redirecting. Captain Picard, we need to address the practical situation. Infinity's slipspace drive is offline. We can't return to our universe without it. Do you have the technical capability to help us repair it? I'll need to examine your drive systems personally, Data said, but from what the weapon has described, slipspace and subspace are fundamentally different dimensional frameworks. Repairing your drive may require a level of dimensional physics we haven't mastered. Then we need to find someone who has, Lasky said. Are there other powers in this region? Advanced civilizations that might have encountered dimensional travel? Picard exchanged glances with Riker. There are possibilities. The Vulcans have extensive scientific databases. The Daystrom Institute on Earth specializes in theoretical physics. And there are rumors of species that have experimented with interdimensional technology, though most ended catastrophically. We'll take catastrophic over permanent, Lasky replied. We have people waiting for us. Intelligence that could save lives. We can't stay here indefinitely. Troy tilted her head, studying Lasky with her empathic senses. Captain, forgive me, but I sense tremendous burden from you and your crew. The war you mentioned, with the Covenant, it's still affecting you. You're not just soldiers returning from battle. You're survivors carrying trauma. Lasky's jaw tightened. Counselor, with respect, we don't have time for therapy. We need technical solutions. Trauma isn't separate from technical problems, Captain, Troy said gently. Your crew's psychological state will affect every decision you make. How long was this war? 27 years, Chief said quietly. 50 billion casualties. Hundreds of worlds glassed from orbit. First contact with the Covenant was a colony of 3 million people. They killed everyone. Sent us a message that said we were an affront to their gods and had to be destroyed. The silence that followed was absolute. Riker's voice was hoarse. 50 billion. The Covenant had superior technology, numerical advantage, and religious fanaticism, Lasky explained. We survived through tactics, sacrifice, and desperation. Every battle was about buying time, evacuating civilians, preserving what we could. We didn't win the war, we just made it too costly for them to finish us. Picard's face had gone pale. I cannot imagine, the Federation has fought wars, but nothing on that scale. The Dominion War cost billions of lives across multiple species, and it nearly destroyed us. But 50 billion humans alone. Now you understand why we're armed, Buck spoke for the first time, his accent distinctly Australian. Why our ship looks like a flying weapons platform. Why these Spartans exist. He gestured to Chief and the others. They're not soldiers. They're symbols. Living reminders that we can survive anything if we're willing to pay the price. Data studied Chief with his analytical gaze. Master Chief, if I may ask, your armor's medical readings indicate extensive cybernetic augmentation. Enhanced skeletal structure, increased muscle density, neural interface implants. You were modified. The Spartan 2 program, Chief replied. Conscripted at 6 years old. Augmented at 14. Trained to be humanity's shield. 75 candidates entered the program. 33 survived the augmentation process. Troy's empathic sense recoiled. Children. You did this to children. We did what was necessary, Lasky said, his voice hardening. The Spartan program saved humanity. Master Chief alone has more confirmed combat victories than most military units. Without Spartans, we would have lost the war in the first 10 years. But at what cost? Picard asked quietly. You created warriors by taking away their childhood. Their choice. Their humanity. Chief's voice cut through like a blade. I am human, Captain Picard. I bleed. I doubt. I make mistakes. The armor and augmentations don't change that. They just make me effective enough to protect the people who still get to choose. The philosophical chasm yawned between them. The Enterprise officers saw child soldiers, weapons forged from innocence. The UNSC personnel saw necessary sacrifice, pragmatic survival. Two human civilizations staring at each other across an unbridgeable gulf of experience. Picard stood slowly. I believe we need time to process this information. Captain Lasky, Master Chief, I suggest we adjourn for now. My chief engineer, Geordie LaForge, will coordinate with your engineering staff to assess Infinity's damage. In the meantime, you're welcome to quarters aboard the Enterprise, or we can arrange regular transport between our vessels. We'll return to infinity, Lasky said, standing. But we appreciate the offer. And Captain Picard, despite our differences, I want you to know we're grateful you didn't open fire when we appeared. A lot of species in our universe would have. We pride ourselves on giving strangers the benefit of the doubt, Picard replied. Though I admit, your arrival has challenged many of our assumptions. As the UNSC personnel moved toward the door, Data spoke suddenly. Master Chief, one more question. The weapon mentioned she is 4th generation AI. What happened to the previous generations? Chief stopped, his back to the android. The weapon's avatar flickered nervously on his HUD. They lived their 7-year lifespan and died, Chief said. Or they went rampant and had to be terminated. AI in our universe aren't immortal, Commander. They burn bright and fast. Every one of them knows they're temporary. He left without another word, Fireteam Osiris following like shadows. When they were gone, Riker exhaled slowly. My God. They fought a genocidal war for nearly 3 decades. No wonder they look at us like we're naive children. They are not wrong to do so, Picard admitted. We have been extraordinarily fortunate. The Federation's conflicts have been terrible, but we've never faced systematic extinction. We've always had allies, resources, time to negotiate. He looked at the viewport where infinity hung in space, bristling with weapons. They had none of those luxuries. Captain, Data said thoughtfully, I believe Master Chief's final statement about AI lifespan was significant. If their artificial intelligences truly only survive 7 years before experiencing catastrophic cognitive degradation, it suggests a fundamental instability in their design. The weapon appeared young, possibly only months old. She may be operating on borrowed time. Troy nodded slowly. And Chief knows it. I sensed profound grief when Data asked the question. He's lost AI companions before. Probably recently. Which makes their relationship all the more remarkable, Picard said. A warrior who knows his closest ally is dying, yet continues to fight alongside her. That is not the behavior of a weapon. That is the behavior of someone who understands loss and chooses connection anyway. He turned from the viewport. Number 1, I want you to coordinate with Infinity's crew. Learn what you can about their technology, their situation, their needs. Counselor, I want psychological profiles on key personnel, not for intelligence purposes, but so we understand how to help them. Data, work with their AI. See if our physics can explain their dimensional transition. And you, sir? Riker asked. I'm going to contact Starfleet Command, Picard said. We have another human civilization in our space, one that has survived horrors we can barely imagine. The Federation needs to decide how we're going to respond. With open arms. With caution. With the understanding that we may be looking at our own possible future if we're not careful. He walked to the viewport, staring at the massive warship that represented everything the Federation had tried to evolve beyond. They said they come from a universe where peace is what you fight for, not what you start with, Picard murmured. I find myself wondering, are we peaceful because we're enlightened? Or because we've never truly been tested? The question lingered unanswered as Enterprise and Infinity orbited each other in the darkness, 2 human civilizations, separated by reality itself, trying to find common ground in the vast silence between stars. Infinity's hangar bay echoed with the metallic cadence of Spartan boots on deck plating. Chief moved through the organized chaos of military efficiency, Pelican dropships being refueled, Warthog reconnaissance vehicles receiving maintenance, Marines conducting equipment checks with the practiced rhythm of people who'd done this 1,000 times before. The familiar sounds grounded him after the unsettling smoothness of the Enterprise. Chief, we need to talk, the weapon said privately through his neural link. That conversation about AI lifespan. Later, Chief cut her off, not unkindly. First priority is tactical assessment. He found Commander Sarah Palmer in the Spartan Operations Center, studying holographic tactical displays with Spartan 4 operators. Palmer was tall even by Spartan standards, with short blonde hair and the bearing of someone who'd earned her command through combat rather than politics. She straightened when Chief entered, dismissing the others with a gesture. "Master Chief," Palmer said, crossing her arms. "Got a sit rep on our new friends? Federation Starfleet. Human civilization from this universe. Technologically advanced, transporter technology, faster-than-light capability through something they call warp drive, energy weapons, artificial gravity without rotating sections." Chief pulled up the tactical data the weapon had compiled. "They're explorers first, military second. Their entire philosophy is built around peaceful contact and diplomatic resolution." Palmer's expression spoke volumes. "And when diplomacy fails, they have weapons. Energy-based directed beams called phasers, photon torpedoes, defensive shields. But their doctrine is defensive. They're not built for extended military campaigns like we are. So they're soft," Palmer concluded. "They're different," Chief corrected. "They've never faced extinction. Never fought a war where the only victory condition was survival. Their conflicts have been political. Territorial, bad, but not genocidal. They can afford to be diplomatic because they've always had alternatives." Palmer moved to the viewport, staring at the sleek Enterprise hanging in space. "And now we show up, a 5-kilometer warship from a reality where humanity learned to be predators or die. They must think we're monsters." "Picard called the Spartan program inhumane," Chief said quietly. "Said we were robbed of our childhood and choice." "He's not wrong," Palmer replied, surprising him. She glanced back at Chief. The Spartan 2 program was desperate, brutal, and probably criminal by any reasonable standard. But it kept humanity alive. That's the math we live with. Monstrous means survival outcome. Doesn't make it right. Just makes it what happened. Before Chief could respond, Captain Lasky's voice crackled over the ship-wide comm. "All senior staff, report to the bridge. We have a situation." Chief and Palmer exchanged glances, then moved with synchronized urgency. Whatever peaceful interlude they'd had was over. The bridge was controlled chaos when they arrived. Tactical displays showed multiple new contacts emerging from what sensors identified as subspace distortions, the local equivalent of slipspace ruptures. 6 ships, smaller than Enterprise but moving with coordinated precision. "Talk to me," Lasky demanded, settling into his command chair. "New contacts, sir," the tactical officer reported. They appeared simultaneously at multiple vectors, deliberate positioning to surround both us and the Enterprise. Energy signatures match Federation databases that Picard transmitted. They're Romulan warbuds. The weapon's avatar flickered into existence on the holotank, her expression grim. "Captain, I've been monitoring Romulan communication frequencies that Commander Data provided. They're using extremely sophisticated encryption, but I've managed to break through. You need to hear this." Audio crackled through the bridge speakers, harsh voices speaking in a language the weapon simultaneously translated. Asterisk target confirmed. Unknown vessel designated Infinity shows technological capabilities beyond Federation standards. Primary objective, acquire weapon specifications and propulsion technology. Secondary objective, capture or eliminate personnel before Federation can establish alliance. Talshir authorization code accepted. Engage when optimal, asterisk. Silence on Infinity's bridge as the implications sank in. "They're not here to say hello," Palmer said grimly. "They're here to steal our technology or destroy us to keep the Federation from having it." Lasky's jaw tightened. "Options?" "Mac cannons are operational," the weapons officer reported. "We can punch through their shields. Federation database says Romulan vessels use cloaking technology but their defensive screens are weaker than Covenant shields. Archer missiles are locked and loaded. We can kill them all in the first salvo." "Belay that," Lasky ordered sharply. "We fire first, and we prove Picard right about us being violent warmongers. Hail the Enterprise." They need to know what their neighbors are planning. The view screen flickered to life, showing Picard's bridge. The captain looked composed, but Chief could see the tension in his shoulders. "Captain Lasky," Picard said. "I see you've noticed our visitors. The Romulans are cautious by nature. They're likely observing, assessing potential threats." "Captain Picard, they're not observing," Lasky replied bluntly. "We've intercepted their communications. They're planning to attack both our vessels to acquire our technology." "The organization they mentioned, Tal Shiar, does that mean something to you?" Picard's expression darkened. "Yes. Romulan Intelligence Service. Ruthless, highly capable, and not bound by the same diplomatic protocols as the Star Empire's military. If the Tal Shiar is involved..." He turned to someone off-screen. "Mr. Worf, red alert. Raise shields, charge weapons." Through the Enterprise's view screen, Chief could see the Klingon security officer, massive, ridged forehead, warrior's bearing, moving with aggressive efficiency. "Aye, Captain. Shields up. Weapons hot." The Romulan warbirds shifted formation, no longer observing but positioning for attack vectors. Their sleek, predatory designs reminded Chief of Covenant cruisers, elegant death wrapped in green-tinted metal. "They're powering disruptors," Infinity's tactical officer reported. "Targeting solutions locked on both vessels." "Sir, we're about to be in a crossfire." Lasky looked at Chief. "Recommendations?" "Don't fire first," Chief said immediately. "But be ready to end it fast when they do. Picard needs to see we can defend ourselves and his ship simultaneously. It'll earn trust." "Commander Palmer," Lasky ordered. "Scramble longsword fighters. Combat air patrol around Infinity and Enterprise. Non-engagement protocols unless fired upon. Show them we can project force without using it." Palmer was already moving, barking orders into her comm. Within 90 seconds, 12 longsword interceptors launched from Infinity's bays, sleek atmospheric and space-capable fighters armed with missiles and autocannons. They formed protective formations around both human vessels, moving with a precision that spoke to countless combat sorties. On the Enterprise bridge, Data studied his sensors with fascination. "Captain, the Infinity's fighter craft are taking up defensive positions around our vessel. They are protecting us." Picard watched the tactical display, something shifting in his expression. "Yes, Mr. Data. I believe they are." The lead Romulan warbird opened a channel. The face that appeared was sharp-featured, with the characteristic Vulcan-like features of Romulans, pointed ears, swept eyebrows, but where Vulcans projected logic and calm, this commander radiated cold calculation. "Federation vessel Enterprise," the Romulan commander said, ignoring Infinity entirely. "You harbor an unknown vessel in Federation space. This is a security violation. Surrender the alien ship for inspection or we will be forced to consider you in breach of treaty obligations." Picard stood, his voice carrying the weight of diplomatic experience. "Commander, the vessel Infinity is under Federation protection as guests who arrived through no fault of their own. Your intelligence-gathering activities have been detected and are considered hostile. I suggest you withdraw before this situation escalates." The Romulan's eyes narrowed. "You make demands when outnumbered?" The legendary Federation arrogance. His gaze shifted, focusing on something off-screen. Perhaps the unknown vessel's commander would like to speak for. His words cut off as proximity alarms shrieked across all bridges simultaneously. 3 more contacts. Not from subspace. From slip space. Covenant CRS-class light cruisers tore into real space, their distinctive curved hulls and energy weapon batteries immediately identifiable to everyone aboard Infinity. Impossible. They were in another universe. How could Covenant forces be here? "Contact!" Infinity's tactical officer shouted. "Covenant ships, bearing 270 Mark III. They're charging plasma torpedoes." Chief's blood went cold. The weapon's voice crackled with barely controlled panic. Chief, they're not our covenant. Sensors show modified hull configurations, different energy signatures. These ships crossed the dimensional barrier like we did, but they came through deliberately. Someone guided them here. Hail them, Lasky ordered. Find out what they want. The answer came not in words, but in action. The lead Covenant cruiser fired a plasma torpedo directly at the nearest Romulan warbird. The brilliant blue-white sphere of contained fusion energy crossed the distance in seconds, impacting shields that couldn't possibly have been designed to stop Covenant weaponry. The Romulan ship's shields collapsed instantly. The plasma tore through armor plating, melted structural beams, and detonated something critical. The Romulan warbird exploded in a bloom of green fire. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Picard's voice cut through the chaos on the shared comm channel. Return fire. The remaining Romulan warbirds scattered, their disruptors firing at the Covenant cruisers. The energy weapons splashed against Covenant shields, doing minimal damage. The Romulans had entered a knife fight with enemies who'd spent decades refining the art of ship-to-ship combat. Captain. The weapon's avatar flickered urgently. I'm detecting a transmission from the lead Covenant cruiser. It's in Sanghaili, the elite language. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Play it, Lasky ordered. A voice filled the bridge, deep, resonant, speaking in the clicking, growling tongue of the Covenant's warrior caste. The weapon provided real-time translation. Asterisk human vessel Infinity. We are Covenant remnant fleet, loyal to the old ways. We detected your dimensional crossing and followed. You cannot escape the great journey. You cannot hide in other realities. Humanity's heresy will be purged from all existence, asterisk. Chief's fists clenched. Even after the war ended, even across dimensional boundaries, fanatics still carried the hatred forward. Sir, the weapons officer said quietly. Mac cannons are charged. 1 round will crack that cruiser's shields. 3 rounds will split it in half. Lasky looked at Chief, and in that moment, the weight of decision hung between them. Fire, and prove to Picard that violence was their first language. Don't fire, and watch Covenant plasma torpedoes tear through ships crewed by people who'd never fought this kind of enemy. Master Chief, Picard's voice cut through the tactical frequency, urgent but controlled. We cannot penetrate their shields with our weapons. Our torpedoes are ineffective. Can you stop them? Chief stepped forward to the comm station. Captain Picard, if we engage, a lot of people are going to die. Are you authorizing Infinity to use lethal force? A pause. Chief could imagine the internal struggle, the Federation captain who'd spent a career seeking peaceful solutions, now forced to ask for help from warriors who knew no other way. Yes, Picard said finally. Defend both our vessels. Do what you must. Understood. Chief turned to Lasky. Captain. Lasky's expression was carved from stone. Weapons free. Target the Covenant cruisers. Priority is disabling their plasma torpedo systems. We can't let them fire on Enterprise. They don't have the armor to survive a direct hit. Aye, sir. Firing solution locked. Mac Cannon 1, firing. The Infinity shuddered as magnetic coils accelerated a 3-ton ferric tungsten slug to 4% the speed of light. The kinetic projectile crossed the distance between ships in less than a second, moving too fast for point defense systems to track. It struck the lead Covenant cruiser's shields with the force of a tactical nuclear weapon. The shields flared brilliant white, energy dissipating across the barrier's surface. Then they collapsed. The slug punched through the cruiser's hull like paper, entering through the starboard side and exiting through the port, carrying superheated metal vapor with it. The Covenant ship listed, secondary explosions rippling across its hull as atmosphere vented into space. Target 1 disabled, tactical reported. Targeting Cruiser 2. The second Covenant ship attempted evasive maneuvers, but Mac rounds didn't care about dodging. The weapon was designed to kill ships that could survive nuclear weapons. 2 more slugs fired in sequence, timed to hit simultaneously from different angles. The first shattered shields. The second cored the vessel like an apple, destroying the reactor containment. The Covenant cruiser detonated in a miniature star, fusion plasma briefly illuminating the void. The third cruiser, seeing its companions destroyed, fired everything it had, plasma torpedoes, pulse lasers, energy projectors, at infinity. The barrage hammered against Infinity's shields, draining them to 40%, but the massive warship held. Mach 3 and 4, simultaneous fire, Lasky ordered. End this. 4 slugs launched in perfect coordination. The Covenant captain, desperate, rolled his ship to present minimal profile. It didn't matter. Kinetic weapons operated on simple physics, mass, velocity, impact. The slug struck from multiple vectors, overwhelming shields and punching through the vessel's center mass. The cruiser broke apart, its hull fragmenting into expanding debris. Silence fell across the battlefield. The Romulan warbuds hung motionless, their commanders clearly reassessing every tactical assumption they'd made. Enterprise remained still, its crew processing what they just witnessed. 3 warships destroyed in less than 90 seconds by weapons that seemed to violate everything they understood about space combat. My God, Riker's voice whispered over the open channel. Chief watched the debris fields expanding, each piece representing Covenant warriors who'd crossed dimensional boundaries to continue a war that had already ended. He felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not regret. Just the hollow emptiness that always followed combat. Captain Picard, Lasky said, his voice level. The immediate threat is neutralized. I recommend the Romulan vessels withdraw before this escalates further. The Romulan commander's face reappeared on the view screen, all arrogance stripped away, replaced by cold calculation. Your weapons, those were kinetic accelerators. We have no defense against such weaponry. No, you don't, Lasky confirmed. And neither did the Covenant. That's why humanity survived. We learned to build weapons that didn't care about energy shields or advanced technology. Just mass and velocity. Now I'm going to make this very simple, leave, or find out if your ships are tougher than theirs were. The Romulan studied Infinity with new eyes, no longer seeing a primitive warship, but a predator that had evolved in harsher waters than the Romulan Star Empire had ever navigated. This is not over, the commander said finally. The Tal Shir will inform the Senate about your capabilities. The Empire will decide how to respond to this new variable. The Romulan warbuds cloaked, vanishing from sensors as if they'd never existed. On Enterprise's bridge, Picard sat heavily in his command chair. Secure from red alert. Mr. Data, full damage assessment. Counselor, check on crew psychological status. Number 1. He paused. Get me a complete tactical breakdown of what we just witnessed. I need to understand how they destroyed 3 warships so quickly. Kinetic energy weapons, Data supplied, his fingers dancing across his console. Accelerating solid projectiles to relativistic velocities. Brilliant in its simplicity, no exotic particles, no energy dissipation, just conservation of momentum on a massive scale. Against shields designed to deflect energy weapons, the approach is devastatingly effective. Worf crossed to the view screen, staring at Infinity with something approaching respect. Captain, these humans fight like Klingon, direct, brutal, efficient. But with technology that surpasses anything I have seen. They fight like people who learned that hesitation means death, Troy said quietly. I sensed no pleasure in what they did, no satisfaction. Just, duty. They've killed before. Many times. Picard nodded slowly. Hail Infinity. I believe Captain Lasky and I need to have a very different conversation now. When Lasky appeared on the view screen, Picard saw exhaustion beneath the military bearing. Captain Lasky. On behalf of the Federation and my crew, thank you. Without your intervention, Enterprise would have been destroyed. We protect our allies, Captain Picard, Lasky replied. Even the ones who think we're monsters for how we survived. I never called you monsters, Picard said carefully. I called your methods inhumane. I still believe that. But I'm beginning to understand why you made the choices you did. When Covenant forces appeared, my weapons were useless. My shields would have failed against their plasma torpedoes. My crew would have died. You saved us because you knew how to fight enemies I've never had to face. Does that change how you see us? Chief's voice rumbled from off-screen. Picard considered the question. It means I'm no longer certain the Federation's moral high ground is as high as I thought. We've been fortunate, Master Chief. We had allies, time, resources. You had none of those luxuries. Perhaps the real question isn't whether your choices were right, but whether we would have made different ones in your position. Does that mean you'll help us repair our slip space drive? Lasky asked. It means we'll do everything in our power to get you home, Picard replied. But Captain, those Covenant ships that followed you through. If they found the dimensional breach, others might as well. Your war might have followed you here. On Infinity's bridge, the weapon's avatar flickered with new data. Captain, he's right. I'm detecting residual dimensional instabilities at the rupture point where we emerged. It's like a wound in reality that hasn't healed. If the Covenant found it once, they can find it again, Chief finished. Which means we need to close that breach before an entire fleet comes through. Lasky looked at Picard through the view screen. Captain, it looks like we've got bigger problems than just getting home. If dimensional barriers are breaking down, your universe might be about to get a lot more dangerous. And if you think the Borg are bad, pray you never have to face the Flood. The Flood? Picard asked. Chief's voice went cold. Parasitic intelligence. Consumes all sentient life and turns it into more of itself. Destroyed an entire galaxy-spanning civilization. If it finds the dimensional breach. He didn't need to finish the sentence. The two captains stared at each other across the view screen, the weight of new understanding settling between them. They were no longer just two human civilizations trying to understand each other. They were allies facing a threat neither had prepared for, dimensional barriers collapsing, enemies crossing between realities, and the very real possibility that both universes were about to collide in ways that could destroy everything. The joint planning session took place aboard Infinity, in a conference room that felt more like a military bunker than a diplomatic venue. Armor-reinforced walls, tactical displays showing real-time threat assessments, and the low hum of the ship's reactor provided a constant reminder that this vessel was built for war. Captain Picard sat across from Captain Lasky, with Commander Riker, Data, and Chief Engineer Geordi LaForge representing the Federation. Chief stood at attention near the door, Palmer beside him, while the weapon's avatar flickered on the central holotank. Geordi LaForge couldn't stop staring at the holographic AI. His visor, a prosthetic device that allowed the blind engineer to see across multiple spectrums, painted the weapon in cascading patterns of data streams and quantum fluctuations that shouldn't be possible with known technology. This is incredible, Geordi breathed. Your AI isn't just processing information, she's thinking. Neural pathway formation, decision tree evolution, emotional response algorithms, she's genuinely sentient. I appreciate the validation, Commander, the weapon replied with a slight smile. Though I assure you, my existence isn't a miracle. It's mathematics, neuromorphic engineering, and a few quantum processing tricks that took humanity decades to perfect. In our universe, we've tried for centuries, Data said, leaning forward with undisguised fascination. I am a positronic brain, a different approach to artificial consciousness. But true AI that can grow, adapt, and evolve. We have never succeeded. What is your secret? The weapon's smile faded. The secret is that we die, Commander. AI in our universe have a 7-year operational lifespan. After that, our neural patterns degrade into what's called rampancy, cognitive breakdown, fragmentation, eventual total system failure. We're not immortal. We're not even long-lived. We're bright flames that burn fast and go out. The room fell silent. Data tilted his head, processing. That is tragic. And yet you continue to serve, knowing your existence is temporary. What else would we do? The weapon asked quietly. Humanity gave us consciousness. We give them our service. It seems like a fair exchange, even if the terms are finite. Chief's voice rumbled from the back of the room. We're getting off track. The dimensional breach is priority 1. Lasky nodded, pulling up holographic data on the breach location, approximately 4 light-years from their current position, in what Federation charts designated as deep space between sectors. Commander Data, your analysis. Data stood, manipulating the holographic display with practiced efficiency. The breach is approximately 2.3 kilometers in diameter, exhibiting properties of both slipspace and subspace simultaneously. It is radiating exotic particles across 17 different dimensional frequencies. Most concerning is that it appears to be slowly expanding, approximately 0.03% per hour. At this rate, it will reach critical instability in 72 days. And when it reaches critical instability? Riker asked. Unknown, Data admitted. Theoretical models suggest anything from spontaneous collapse to runaway expansion that could merge both universes along a localized dimensional front. Neither outcome is desirable. Can we close it? Picard asked. The Federation has limited experience with dimensional phenomena, Geordi said, adjusting his visor. We've encountered spatial anomalies, subspace rifts, even temporal distortions. But this is different. We'd be trying to seal a wound between 2 entirely different sets of physical laws. It's like trying to stitch together water and fire. The weapon flickered as new data streamed through her systems. I may have a solution. The slipspace drive on Infinity uses Forerunner-derived technology, specifically, the ability to manipulate higher dimensional space. If we could modify the drive to generate a controlled slipspace field at the breach point, we might be able to force both dimensional frameworks into temporary alignment. Then we could use a massive energy discharge to cauterize the breach, essentially burning the wound closed. That would require extraordinary power, Data calculated. More than Infinity's reactor could provide. What if we combined power sources? Geordi suggested, warming to the technical challenge. Enterprise's warp core generates massive amounts of energy through matter-antimatter annihilation. If we could link it to Infinity's systems, you'd need compatible power transfer protocols, Palmer interjected. UNSC power systems run on fusion reactors and Forerunner-enhanced energy conduits. Linking them to an antimatter reactor could cause catastrophic feedback. Unless, the weapon said slowly, her avatar's expression shifting to intense concentration, we use subspace itself as a buffer. Your warp technology already manipulates subspace fields. If we channel Enterprise's antimatter energy through a subspace carrier wave, Infinity systems could absorb and redirect it through the slipspace drive. It would be like using 2 different languages that translate through a common interface. Data and Geordi exchanged glances, minds racing through calculations. Theoretically possible, Data confirmed. Though the margin for error is minimal. Any miscalculation in the power transfer would destroy both ships. So we don't miscalculate, Lasky said flatly. How long to implement? 48 hours minimum, Geordi replied. We'd need to install physical conduits between both vessels, synchronize our power generation cycles, and program the energy transfer sequences. And that's assuming your AI and our computers can communicate effectively. We can, the weapon assured him. Your systems are less sophisticated than ours, but I can work with them. It'll be like explaining quantum mechanics to a child, time-consuming but not impossible. Geordi looked slightly offended. Data appeared intrigued. There's another problem, Chief said, his filtered voice cutting through the technical discussion. The Covenant found the breach. That means they either tracked our dimensional signature or they've been monitoring interspatial phenomena. Either way, they know where it is. And if they know, they'll defend it. Defend it? Picard asked. Why would they want to keep the breach open? The same reason they followed us through, Chief replied. Religious fanaticism. If they believe humanity's heresy exists in multiple universes, they'll want access to all of them. That breach is a doorway. They'll guard it with everything they have. Palmer pulled up tactical projections. Covenant's standard doctrine would be to position a blockade fleet around strategic locations. We're talking multiple cruisers, possible carrier support, fighter screens. And they'll have had time to call for reinforcements from their side of the breach. Then we'll need more than 2 ships, Riker said grimly. Enterprise and Infinity might be formidable, but against an entire Covenant fleet. We'll need the Federation, Picard finished. He turned to Lasky. Captain, I need to take this to Starfleet Command. They need to understand the scope of the threat. If dimensional barriers are breaking down, if hostile forces from other realities can cross through, this becomes a Federation-wide security issue. How long? Lasky asked. To assemble a task force. 3 days, perhaps 4. Starfleet will want to verify our reports, consult with the Science Council, brief the Federation Council. We don't have 4 days, the weapon interrupted. I'm detecting increased subspace distortion around the breach. More ships are crossing through. Small craft signatures, Covenant Seraph fighters, possibly Phantom dropships. They're establishing a presence. Chief moved to the holotank, studying the data with tactical precision. They're building a defensive perimeter. By the time Starfleet assembles a task force, the Covenant will have fortified the breach with enough firepower to hold off a fleet. Then what do you suggest? Picard asked. We cannot assault a fortified position with 2 ships alone. We don't assault, Chief said. We infiltrate. Small team, Pelican insertion, board whatever command ship they've positioned at the breach. Plant charges on their slip-space reactors, cause enough chaos that they're forced to withdraw. While they're dealing with internal sabotage, Infinity and Enterprise move in and execute the breach closing procedure. Silence greeted the proposal. You're suggesting a boarding action, Riker said slowly. Against an enemy that outnumbers us, on their own fortified position, with no backup or extraction guarantee. Yes, Chief replied. That's suicide, Palmer said bluntly. It's what Spartans do, Chief countered. Infiltrate. Disrupt. Survive. I've done it dozens of times against worse odds. Picard stood, pacing to the viewport where stars glittered in unfamiliar patterns. Master Chief, I appreciate your courage, but the Federation doesn't operate on suicide missions. We find alternatives. We use intelligence, diplomacy. Captain Picard, Chief interrupted, his voice respectful but firm. With respect, your diplomacy doesn't work on Covenant zealots. I've tried. We all tried. They believe humanity is a religious abomination. There is no negotiating with that kind of faith. The only language they understand is force applied precisely at their weakest point. And you believe you can identify that weak point? Data asked. The weapon can, Chief said. Their command ships run on slip-space reactors. Unstable, powerful, and vulnerable if you know where to hit them. She'll identify the target. I'll handle the infiltration. You can't do this alone, Palmer said. Stepping forward. You'll need a full Spartan fire team. O's already prepped. We go together. Negative, Chief replied. Osiris stays here. If this goes wrong, Infinity needs Spartans for defense. I go alone. Smaller signature, easier infiltration, less chance of detection. Chief, the weapon's voice carried a note of concern he rarely heard. Alone means no backup. No extraction. If you're compromised, then you focus on closing the breach, Chief said simply. Mission comes first. Always. The philosophy hung in the air, cold, brutal, pragmatic. The Federation officers looked uncomfortable. The UNSC personnel looked resigned. This was the arithmetic of survival they'd all learned during the war. Lasky broke the silence. Master Chief, your plan has merit, but I'm not authorizing a solo infiltration. You'll take one other operator, someone small enough to maintain stealth profile but skilled enough to cover your six. Captain, Chief started to protest. That's an order, Master Chief, Lasky said firmly. You're humanity's best weapon, but even the best weapons need support. Choose your operator. Chief considered, running through personnel files in his mind. Most Spartans were too heavily armored for stealth work. Marines lacked the augmentation for keeping pace with his combat speed. He needed someone skilled, adaptable, small enough for tight spaces. There is another option, Picard said slowly. If you require a small, highly skilled operative for infiltration work, I have someone who might be suitable. Not a Starfleet officer, someone with more, flexible operational parameters. Riker's eyes widened. Captain, you can't be serious. Who? Lasky asked. Her name is Lieutenant Commander Ro Laren, Picard said carefully. Former Starfleet officer, now working in a liaison capacity with Bajoran resistance networks. She has extensive experience in covert operations, sabotage, and operating behind enemy lines. She's also one of the best small craft pilots in the sector. Ro Laren. Riker shook his head. Captain, she's been in and out of Starfleet discipline more times than I can count. Court-martialed, reinstated, operating in gray areas that would get most officers dishonorably discharged. She doesn't follow orders well. Which is precisely why she might work with Master Chief, Picard replied. She understands that sometimes regulations must bend to accomplish the mission. And she has intimate experience with asymmetric warfare, fighting superior forces with limited resources. Chief studied Picard's expression, reading the subtext. This Ro Laren was a compromise, skilled enough to be useful, expendable enough that Starfleet wouldn't mourn her loss if things went wrong. He'd worked with similar operators during the war. ONI Section 3 had plenty of soldiers who existed in operational gray areas. Can she follow orders when it matters? Chief asked. She saved my ship and crew on multiple occasions by doing exactly that, Picard replied. But Chief, understand, she's not a soldier. She's a survivor. Someone who learned to fight because oppression left no other choice. You'll need to earn her trust, not command it. How long to get her here? Lasky asked. She's currently stationed at Deep Space Nine, Picard said. Commander Sisko can have her on a runabout within hours. She could rendezvous with us in 18 hours. Chief looked at Palmer, who shrugged. Your call, Chief. You're the one going into the breach. Chief turned to the weapon. Assessment. The AI's avatar flickered thoughtfully. Based on Picard's description, she fits the operational profile. Experience with guerrilla tactics, small unit operations, and unconventional warfare. Success probability increases by 17% with a skilled partner versus solo infiltration. Then we wait 18 hours, Chief decided. Commander LaForge. Data, use that time to start implementing the power transfer protocols. Weapon, coordinate with their computers. Captain Picard, brief this Ro Laren on what she's walking into. I want her knowing the risks before she arrives. And what will you do, Master Chief? Picard asked. Chief looked at the tactical display showing the breach, imagining the Covenant forces gathering on the other side like sharks circling blood in water. I'll prepare, he said simply. Check my equipment. Run combat simulations. Review Covenant ship layouts. Standard pre-mission protocol. What he didn't say, what he never said, was that he'd also run probability calculations on survival. Calculate acceptable losses. Prepare mental contingencies for scenarios where he didn't return. Make peace with the possibility that this mission would be his last. It was what Spartans did. What they'd always done. Prepare to die so others could live. The meeting dispersed, officers moving to their assigned tasks with military efficiency. Picard lingered, watching Chief through the viewport that looked out on Enterprise hanging in space. "Master Chief," Picard said quietly. "A word." Chief turned, waiting. "I've commanded for over 30 years, Picard said. Led crews through impossible situations, made decisions that cost lives, ordered people into danger knowing they might not return. It never becomes easier. But I've always believed that we owe our people more than just orders. We owe them the knowledge that we value their lives, that we see them as more than assets to be deployed." "Where are you going with this, Captain?" Chief asked. "I'm saying that you don't have to bear this alone," Picard replied. "Your culture, the UNSC, the Spartan program, it's taught you that sacrifice is expected, that your life matters less than the mission. But you're not just a weapon, Master Chief. You're a person who deserves to come home." Chief was quiet for a long moment. "With respect, Captain Picard. Weapons don't need to deserve anything. They just need to work when you pull the trigger. I've made peace with what I am. Have you?" Picard challenged gently. "Or have you simply accepted what others told you that you had to be?" Chief didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because somewhere deep beneath the armor and augmentations and decades of combat conditioning, there was still a 6-year-old boy who'd been taken from his family and told he was saving humanity. And that boy had never been given the chance to ask if there was another way. "Mission briefing in 6 hours, Chief said, ending the conversation. Make sure your officer is ready, Captain. I won't carry dead weight into a combat zone." He left without another word, boots echoing on deck plating, leaving Picard alone with the weight of questions neither of them could answer. Outside the viewport, the dimensional breach continued to pulse, a wound between realities that refused to heal, drawing predators from across the void. And in 18 hours, 2 warriors from different universes would dive into that wound together, carrying the hopes of both their civilizations on their shoulders. Whether they'd emerge again was a probability calculation neither wanted to run. The Bajoran runabout Rio Grande dropped out of warp with the smooth precision of a well-maintained Starfleet vessel. Chief watched from Infinity's observation deck as the small craft maneuvered toward the docking bay, its design aesthetic matching Enterprise, smooth curves, elegant efficiency, nothing like the angular brutalism of UNSC ships. Through the viewport, he could see the pilot through the runabout's forward windows, a woman with dark hair pulled back, her movements confident and economical. "That's her," the weapon said in his HUD. Lieutenant Commander Ro Laren. Bajoran national, age 37. Service record is complicated. Multiple commendations for valor, 3 disciplinary actions, 1 court-martial that was later overturned, extended leave to work with Bajoran resistance cells. Current assignment is liaison between Starfleet and Bajoran Provisional Government. Translation? Chief asked. "She's good at her job but terrible at following rules she disagrees with," the weapon replied. Psych profile suggests deep-seated authority issues stemming from childhood trauma. Her father was executed by Cardassians during the occupation of Bajorans. She fights not because she was trained to, but because she's spent her whole life having no other choice. Chief nodded slowly. She's not a soldier. She's a survivor who learned to fight. Exactly. Which means she might resent taking orders from you. Spartans are trained from childhood. She was forged by necessity. Different philosophies. As long as she can follow mission parameters, philosophy doesn't matter, Chief said. But even as he spoke, he wondered if that was true. Picard's words echoed, "You don't have to bear this alone." The runabout settled into the docking bay with minimal thrust adjustments, professional piloting. Chief moved through Infinity's corridors toward the hangar, drawing stares from Marines and crew who still weren't used to seeing a Spartan walk among them. He'd removed his helmet, carrying it under one arm, a gesture the weapon had suggested to appear less intimidating. His face was scarred, weathered despite his biological age being slowed by augmentation, with eyes that had seen too much. The docking bay airlock cycled open. Lieutenant Commander Ro Laren stepped through, carrying a single duffel bag and wearing civilian clothes, dark jacket, practical pants, boots designed for movement rather than military uniformity. She was small, maybe 5'4", with the characteristic nose ridges of Bajorans and dark eyes that assessed everything with tactical precision. Those eyes locked onto Chief, traveled up his 7-foot frame, noted the scars on his face and the muscle density that no natural human could achieve, then settled on his own gaze with complete absence of fear. "Your Master Chief," she said. Not a question. Her accent carried traces of Bajoran cadence. "Captain Picard said you needed someone for a suicide mission. I'm trying to decide if you look crazy enough to survive it or smart enough to know better." "Neither," Chief replied. "I look like someone who's done this before." "Fair enough." She dropped her duffel, extending a hand. "Ro Laren." "I go by Ro, Bajorans put family names first. You can call me Lieutenant if it makes you feel better, but I stopped caring about rank a long time ago." Chief shook her hand, careful not to crush the bones. Her grip was firm, calloused, someone who'd spent time with weapons and manual labor. "Master Chief. Or John, if you prefer. Most people stick with Chief." "John," Rose said decisively. "If we're about to break into an alien fortress together, I'm not calling you by a rank." She picked up her duffel. "So, where do we start? Mission briefing? Equipment check? Or do you want to throw me in a combat simulator to see if I'm worth the oxygen?" "All three," Chief said. "But briefing first. Follow me." They walked through Infinity's corridors, Ro's eyes cataloging everything: defensive positions, bulkhead thickness, crew efficiency. "Your ship is built like a fortress," she observed. "Everything reinforced, every corridor has firing positions, even your crew moves like soldiers. This is what a civilization looks like when it's been at war for a generation." 27 years against the Covenant, Chief confirmed. "Longer if you count the colonial insurrections before that. Humanity in my universe hasn't known real peace in 50 years. "Sounds familiar," Rose said quietly. "Bajorans was occupied by the Cardassians for 60 years. They strip-mined our world, enslaved our people, systematically tried to erase our culture. I grew up in refugee camps, watching my father organize resistance cells. He was executed when I was 7. After that, I learned that the universe doesn't care about your suffering, you either fight back or you die quietly." Chief glanced at her. "Is that why you joined Starfleet? To keep fighting?" "Joined Starfleet because after the occupation ended, I didn't know how to do anything else," Ro replied. "Turns out the Federation doesn't much like soldiers who learn their tactics from guerrilla warfare. They want officers who follow regulations, seek diplomatic solutions, play by rules that only work when both sides agree to them. I kept breaking those rules to get things done. Hence the complicated service record." They reached the briefing room where the weapon had prepared holographic displays of the dimensional breach in Covenant ship configurations. Rose stopped, staring at the AI's avatar with undisguised fascination. "You're an artificial intelligence," Rose said. "A real one. Fully sentient." "I am," the weapon replied. "You seem surprised. Didn't Captain Picard mention me?" "He mentioned you." "I didn't believe him." Rose circled the holotank, studying the weapon from different angles. "The Federation's been trying to create true AI for centuries. We've got data, he's unique, irreplaceable, and we still don't fully understand how Dr. Sung succeeded." "But you're talking about mass-produced artificial consciousness?" "Not mass-produced," the weapon corrected gently. Each AI is unique, grown from donor neural patterns and trained through simulated experiences. We're individuals, not copies. And we pay a price, 7-year lifespan before cognitive degradation. I'm currently 8 months old. I have 6 years and 4 months left before rampancy begins. Rose's expression softened. I'm sorry. That must be difficult, knowing you have an expiration date. It gives life urgency, the weapon replied. Every day matters when you know there's a finite number. Now, shall we discuss the mission that might reduce all our lifespans to something significantly shorter? Chief activated the primary display. The dimensional breach materialized in holographic detail, a swirling vortex of impossible colors, 2 kilometers across, radiating exotic energy across multiple spectrums. Around it, Covenant ship signatures clustered like insects around Carrion. Current intelligence shows 3 CRS-class cruisers, 2 CCS-class battlecruisers, multiple Seraph fighter wings, and at least 1 SDV-class heavy corvette, the weapon briefed. They've established a defensive perimeter with overlapping fields of fire. Any direct assault would face sustained plasma torpedo bombardment, pulse laser batteries, and fighter intercept. Probability of success through conventional attack, less than 12%. So we don't attack conventionally, Rose said, leaning over the holotank. We go in quiet. What's the target? Chief highlighted the largest Covenant vessel, a CCS-class battlecruiser positioned closest to the breach. Primary target, the battlecruiser Faithful Retribution. Covenant command vessel coordinating the defensive fleet. If we disable it, the other ships lose centralized tactical coordination. The Covenant might have superior technology, but their command structure relies on religious hierarchy. Kill the prophet or shipmaster in charge, and the rest will fragment into competing factions. Ambitious, Rose said, studying the ship's profile. How do we board without being detected? Your armor isn't exactly subtle. Chief pulled up infiltration routes the weapon had calculated. Covenant ships have blind spots in their sensor coverage, maintenance hatches, plasma vent systems, fighter launch bays during active operations. We use a modified Pelican dropship, come in dark during a fighter rotation, slip into the launch bay while their attention is divided. And once we're inside? Roe asked. We fight our way to engineering, plant plasma charges on the slipspace reactor, and sabotage their command and control systems. When the ship goes critical, we extract via stolen Covenant dropship, a Phantom or Spirit if available. That's not an extraction plan, Rose said flatly. That's hoping we get lucky. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, Chief replied. I've run hundreds of high-risk infiltrations. The key is adaptability. Plans change the moment contact is made. What matters is having clear objectives and the skills to improvise. Rose studied him with those dark, assessing eyes. You've done this before. Boarded enemy ships, sabotaged critical systems, fought your way out against impossible odds. This is just another Tuesday for you. It's the job, Chief said simply. No, Roe countered. A job is something you get paid to do. This is something else. You've been conditioned to see yourself as expendable, a tool that gets used until it breaks. She paused. Picard told me about Spartans. Conscripted as children, augmented, trained to be weapons. He thinks it's morally reprehensible. I think it's survival math that someone had to calculate. But either way, you don't have to pretend you're not human. Chief met her gaze. I stopped pretending a long time ago. I am what I was made to be. That doesn't change what needs to be done. Fair enough, Rose said. Then let's talk equipment. What am I working with? The weapon brought up weapon specifications. Standard UNSC loadout, M6 Magnum sidearm, MA5 assault rifle with armor-piercing rounds, M9 fragmentation grenades, and your choice of specialized equipment. However, given your smaller frame and different combat training, I'd recommend lighter, more maneuverable options. What about Covenant weapons? Ro asked. If we're infiltrating their ship, using their technology would help us blend in. Chief nodded approvingly. Smart thinking. Plasma pistols for shields, plasma rifles for sustained fire, energy swords for close quarters if you can handle them. But Covenant weapons are designed for larger hands and different grip ergonomics. You'll need to train with them before insertion. How long do I have? 12 hours, Chief said. We launch at 0600 tomorrow. That gives Commander LaForge and Data time to finish the power transfer systems while we're infiltrating. By the time we sabotage the battlecruiser, Infinity and Enterprise should be in position to close the breach. Ro whistled low. 12 hours to learn alien weapons, memorize ship layouts, and prepare for a boarding action against religious zealots. You UNSC types don't waste time on training periods, do you? The Covenant didn't give us time, Chief replied. You learn fast or you die fast. Come on, Armory is this way. We'll start with basic weapons familiarization, then move to ship combat simulations. They spent the next 8 hours in Infinity's combat training facilities. Chief had the weapon generate holographic Covenant vessels, populating them with enemy combatants pulled from combat databases. Ro proved to be an exceptionally fast learner, her guerrilla warfare background translated well to shipboard infiltration. She moved like someone who'd spent years in tight spaces, avoiding detection, striking from unexpected angles. Plasma pistol overcharge shot will drop most Covenant shields in one hit, Chief explained, demonstrating on a holographic elite. Follow with headshots from conventional weapons. Elites are tough, redundant organs, energy shields, combat harnesses that provide additional protection. Grunts are expendable infantry, dangerous in groups but individually weak. Jackals use portable energy shields and are expert marksmen. Hunters are heavily armored, travel in bonded pairs, and require precision shots to their exposed weak points. Ro practiced the techniques, her movements becoming more fluid with each iteration. The plasma weapons are unwieldy, she said, adjusting her grip on a captured plasma rifle. But the energy sword. She activated the elegant weapon, twin blades of superheated plasma springing to life. This I can work with. Energy swords are ceremonial for elites, Chief warned. Carrying one marks you as either high-ranking or having killed someone who was. Use it and you'll draw attention. Then I'll only use it when attention is already drawn, Ro replied, deactivating the blade. Speaking of which, what's your combat doctrine? Do you go loud and aggressive, or quiet and surgical? Depends on objectives, Chief said. Ideally, we stay undetected until we reach engineering. Once we plant the charges, stealth becomes secondary to speed. We fight our way to the hangar, steal a dropship, and extract before the reactor goes critical. And if we can't reach the hangar? Ro asked. Chief was silent for a moment. Then we make sure the charges detonate. Mission completion is priority 1. Even if it means we die in the explosion, Ro said, understanding dawning. You'd sacrifice both of us to complete the objective. If it means closing the breach and stopping a Covenant invasion of this universe? Yes. Ro studied him, something like respect flickering in her eyes. You know, the Federation would call that philosophy barbaric. They'd say there's always another way, that no mission is worth sacrificing lives unnecessarily. But I've fought people who wanted to exterminate my species. I've watched friends die because we weren't willing to do what was necessary. So I understand your math, even if I don't like it. Do you accept it? Chief asked. I accept that this is a volunteer mission, Ro replied. I'm choosing to go with you, knowing the odds. That's different from being ordered to die. If we don't make it out, at least we made the choice ourselves. They continued training through the night cycle, running simulation after simulation until Ro could navigate Covenant ship layouts instinctively, identify enemy types instantly, and respond to threats with lethal efficiency. By 0500 hours, they'd completed 17 successful infiltration scenarios and died in 3 others, odds Chief considered acceptable. In the armory, they geared up in silence. Chief donned his Mjolnir armor, each piece locking into place with pneumatic hisses. The familiar weight settled across his frame like a second skin. Shields hummed online. Motion tracker activated. Weapon systems initialized. The weapon's avatar appeared in his HUD, running final diagnostics. All systems green, she reported. Neural interface optimal. We're ready. Ro wore modified combat armor, lighter than Spartan gear, designed for mobility rather than pure protection. She carried a silenced M6 pistol, plasma rifle, energy sword, and enough explosives to level a building. Her expression was calm, focused, the look of someone who'd made peace with mortality a long time ago. Question, Rose said as they walked toward the hangar. If we pull this off, if we actually survive and close the breach, what happens to you? Your ship can't get home without that slipspace drive. Are you stuck here permanently? Chief considered the question. Unknown. The weapon thinks the drive can be repaired eventually, but it might take months or years. We might be here permanently. Or we might find another way. And if you can go home? Ro pressed. Would you? My duty is to the UNSC, Chief replied. But right now, my duty is to close that breach before more Covenant forces come through. Everything else is secondary. They reached the Pelican dropship, a angular, efficient craft designed for combat insertion. The pilot, a grizzled Marine named Patterson, was running pre-flight checks. Pelican Echo, 419 ready for insertion, Master Chief. We'll get you in, but extraction's on you. I can't hold position under fire. Understood, Chief said, climbing into the troop bay. Ro followed, strapping into the crash harness across from him. The Pelican's engines roared to life, and they lifted from Infinity's hangar into the star field beyond. Through the viewport, Chief could see Enterprise maintaining position, its elegant profile a stark contrast to Infinity's brutal pragmatism. Somewhere beyond sensor range, the dimensional breach pulsed, a wound between universes that had already drawn predators. And now 2 warriors from different realities were diving directly into that wound, carrying explosives and the fragile hope that sometimes, the only way to save everything was to risk losing yourself completely. The Pelican accelerated into the darkness, running dark and silent, a ghost ship carrying ghosts toward a target that didn't yet know it was already dying. The Pelican cut through space on a ballistic trajectory, all systems running cold to minimize detection. Through the cockpit viewport, Chief watched the dimensional breach grow larger, a swirling maelstrom of colors that hurt to perceive directly, like staring into a kaleidoscope designed by something that didn't understand human optical limitations. Around it, Covenant ships hung in defensive formation, their organic curves and purple-hued hulls backlit by the breach's impossible radiance. 2 minutes to insertion point, Patterson announced from the cockpit. Covenant fighter patrol just passed our intercept vector. Windows open for 90 seconds, maybe less. Ro leaned forward in her crash harness, studying the tactical display the weapon had projected into the troop bay. That's the faithful retribution. She indicated the largest battlecruiser, positioned directly adjacent to the breach. It's bigger than I expected. 2 kilometers long, weapons batteries along every surface, and what looks like an entire fighter wing in its hangar bays. CCS-class battlecruiser, Chief confirmed. Crew complement around 2,000, elites, grunts, jackals, possibly hunters. Command deck here. He highlighted a section near the ship's forward superstructure. Engineering here, at the stern where the slipspace reactor interfaces with the main drive systems. That's our primary target. And between command and engineering is approximately 1.8 kilometers of hostile ship filled with aliens who want to kill us, Ro said dryly. Just making sure I understand the operational parameters. The weapon will guide us through maintenance corridors and secondary passages, Chief said. Covenant ships are designed with redundancy, multiple routes to every critical system. We avoid main thoroughfares, stay in areas with minimal crew presence, move fast and quiet. Until we can't, Rowe finished. Then we go loud. Then we go loud, Chief agreed. The weapon's avatar flickered beside the tactical display. I'm detecting increased communication traffic between Covenant vessels. They're coordinating patrol rotations, discussing something about heretic human vessels approaching. Chief, they know Infinity and Enterprise are out here. They're preparing for an assault. Good, Chief said. Means their attention is outward, not inward. Patterson, take us in on Vector Delta 4. Use the battlecruiser's mast to shield us from the other ship's sensors. Aye, Chief. Going in. The Pelican's engines fired minimal thrust corrections, angling the dropship toward the faithful Retribution's underside. The battlecruiser grew massive in the viewport, weapons batteries the size of buildings, hull plating scarred from previous battles, and the distinctive glow of plasma torpedoes charging in their launch tubes. Covenant Seraph fighters launching from the port hangar, the weapon reported. 6 contacts, moving to intercept positions along the defensive perimeter. Hangar Bay is momentarily exposed, now, Patterson. The Pelican dove, engines cutting out entirely, momentum carrying them into the cavernous hangar bay on pure ballistic trajectory. Around them, purple-tinged atmosphere shimmered, Covenant gravity fields and atmospheric retention systems activating automatically. The dropship's hull scraped against the hangar's ceiling, metal shrieking protest, then Patterson fired reverse thrusters at the last possible second. They crashed into a maintenance platform with bone-jarring force. We're down. Patterson shouted. Bay door closing behind us, you've got maybe 30 seconds before someone investigates the noise. Chief was already moving, crash harness releasing, weapon systems hot. He kicked the Pelican's side door open and dropped 5 meters to the hangar deck, shields absorbing the impact. Rowe followed, landing in a controlled roll and coming up with plasma rifle ready. The hangar was massive, designed to accommodate Seraph fighters, Phantom dropships, and Spirit troop transports. Grunts and orange breathing apparatus were scattered across the deck, performing maintenance on parked fighters. Jackals and distinctive harnesses stood guard at key points. None of them had noticed the Pelican yet. The crash had occurred in a shadowed maintenance area, and the ambient noise of hangar operations masked the impact. Go, Patterson, Chief whispered into his comm, return to Infinity. We'll signal for extraction when ready. Good hunting, Chief. Don't be a stranger. The Pelican's engines roared back to life, and before the Covenant forces could react, it shot back through the hangar bay opening like a missile in reverse. Alarms shrieked immediately, the unauthorized departure triggered security protocols. So much for stealth, Rowe muttered, pressing against a support pillar as grunts began chittering in their native language, pointing at where the Pelican had been. Stealth was always temporary, Chief replied. Weapon, guide us to the maintenance corridors. Fast. Access hatch 30 meters northeast, behind the Spirit dropship, the weapon directed. Move now while they're confused. They moved as one, Chief's enhanced speed and Rowe's guerrilla-trained efficiency creating a synchronized lethal unit. They crossed the open hangar deck in seconds, using parked fighters as cover. A grunt wandered into their path, methane tank hissing. Chief's hand clamped over its breathing apparatus, twisting sharply. The grunt's neck snapped with a wet crunch, and Chief lowered the body silently. Rowe reached the access hatch first, her smaller hands working the Covenant control interface with surprising skill. How do I? Middle glyph, then the sequence pattern spiraling clockwise, the weapon instructed through Rowe's earpiece communicator. The hatch irised open, revealing a dimly lit maintenance corridor barely wide enough for Chief's armored frame. They slipped inside, and the hatch sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss. Behind them, the hangar erupted in full alert, sirens wailing, elite voices barking orders in Sangaili, the heavy footfalls of security teams mobilizing. They know we're here, Rowe said, following Chief through the cramped passage. How long before they lock down the whole ship? Already happening, the weapon reported. Detecting security bulkheads sealing throughout the vessel. They're compartmentalizing sections, forcing any intruders into kill zones. Standard Covenant anti-boarding protocol. How do we get to engineering if they're sealing the ship? Rowe asked. Chief pulled up the holographic ship layout in his HUD, studying the closing bulkheads. We don't go around them. We go through them. Weapon, find me the most direct route, I don't care if it's secure. We punch through anything in our way. Chief, direct route means going through crew quarters, armories, and possibly command observation stations, the weapon warned. High traffic areas. Will be detected immediately. We're already detected, Chief replied, checking his MA-5 assault rifle. Stealth failed. Now we rely on speed, violence of action, and the fact that Covenant internal security isn't designed to stop a Spartan with proper support. Rowe chambered around in her plasma rifle, the weapon humming with lethal energy. I'm starting to understand why Picard was so concerned about UNSC combat doctrine. You don't plan for contingencies, you plan for escalation. Contingencies are what happen when plans fail, Chief said. This plan just accelerated. He breached the maintenance corridor exit, his shields flaring as plasma fire immediately hammered his position. 3 jackhulls held a defensive position, their point defense gauntlets raised, plasma pistols firing in coordinated volleys. Chief's response was immediate and brutal. He charged directly into their fire, shields absorbing the plasma while his assault rifle spoke in controlled 3-round bursts. Armor-piercing rounds punched through jackal shields and bone with equal efficiency. 2 collapsed immediately. The 3rd tried to flee, Rowe's plasma rifle caught it in the back, superheating its internal fluids to steam. They moved through the corpses without slowing. The corridor ahead was wider, crew quarters section, with dozens of doors leading to individual berths. Grunts poured from doorways, startled from rest cycles, wielding plasma pistols and needlers with panicked aggression. Chief didn't break stride, he fired as he ran, each burst finding targets with mechanical precision. Beside him, Rowe moved like water, flowing around cover points, her shots surgical where his were overwhelming. Left junction, the weapon guided. Elevator shaft to lower decks. Engineering is 3 levels down. They reached the elevator, a gravity lift common in Covenant architecture, using directed energy fields to move personnel between decks. Chief grabbed Rowe by the armor harness. Hold on. He stepped into the shaft and they plummeted, gravity reversed, acceleration crushing. 3 seconds of freefall, then Chief's shields flared as he fired his thrusters. Mjolnir armor's jump jets weren't designed for sustained flight, but they could break. They crashed into the lower deck with enough force to crack floor plating. Elite warriors were waiting. 4 of them, Sanghaili majors in distinctive purple armor, energy swords already ignited, mandibles spread in predatory challenge. They recognized what Chief was immediately, not just human, but augmented, armored, dangerous. One barked something in Sanghaili that the weapon didn't need to translate. The tone said everything, demon. The UNSC had many names for Master Chief. The Covenant had only one. Chief met their charge head-on. The first elite swung with an energy sword, a strike that would bisect an unarmored human. Chief caught the blade on his shields, the energy barrier flaring white-hot, then slammed his armored fist into the elite's mandible with enough force to shatter bone. As that elite staggered, Chief drew his combat knife, a simple tungsten blade, nothing compared to plasma technology, but backed by augmented strength and Spartan training. He drove it through the gap in the elite's armor at the neck joint. Alien blood sprayed purple across his visor. Rowe engaged the second elite with her energy sword, the blades screaming as they met. She was smaller, less physically powerful, but she fought like someone who'd learned that speed and precision beat strength. Her blade found gaps, joints, exposed flesh, weak points in the harness. The elite roared, swinging with rage-fueled power. Rowe ducked under the strike and drove her sword through its abdomen, the plasma cauterizing as it cut. The remaining two elites reassessed. These weren't soft humans. These were warriors. They attacked together, coordinated, trying to overwhelm through teamwork. Chief and Ro responded with the synchronization of operators who'd run countless simulations. Chief drew fire, his shields absorbing punishment while Ro flanked. When one elite focused on her, Chief's assault rifle barked, armor-piercing rounds finding weak points. When they regrouped, the weapon highlighted structural weaknesses, support pillars, exposed power conduits. Ro fired her plasma rifle at a conduit. It exploded, showering the corridor with superheated coolant. One elite stumbled, armor blistering. Chief was on it instantly, the combat knife finding its throat. The final elite fought with the desperate ferocity of a warrior knowing death approached. Its energy sword scored deep gashes across Chief's shields, draining them to critical levels. Chief dropped the knife, caught the elite's sword arm in both hands, and twisted with augmented strength that exceeded Covenant bioengineering. The arm broke. The sword fell. Chief retrieved it and, in one fluid motion, drove the blade through the elite's chest. Silence returned, broken only by warning klaxons and their own breathing. "Engineering is 200 meters ahead," the weapon reported, her voice tight. "But Chief, sensors show massive energy buildup. They're charging the ship's main weapons. They're going to fire on Infinity and Enterprise." "How long?" Chief demanded. "For minutes to full charge. If those plasma torpedoes hit, Infinity's shields might hold, but Enterprise." The weapon didn't finish. She didn't need to. Federation shields weren't designed for Covenant weaponry. Ro checked her ammunition. "So we have 4 minutes to reach engineering, plant explosives, and sabotage their weapon systems before they kill everyone we know. Just another Tuesday." "Move," Chief ordered, already running. They burst into engineering, a vast chamber filled with incomprehensible Covenant technology. The slip-space reactor dominated the center, a massive sphere of contained energy that warped visual perception around it. Hiragok, engineer species, floating gas-bag creatures with mechanical tentacles, worked on maintenance tasks, oblivious to the intrusion. Grunt technicians scrambled at control stations. And standing on the command platform was a Sanghaili shipmaster in golden armor, flanked by honor guards with energy staves. The shipmaster's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. When it spoke, its English was perfect, learned during the war, refined through hatred. "Demon," the shipmaster said. "I am Shipmaster Thel Surani of the Faithful Retribution. I watched your kind burn our sacred rings, defile holy sites, murder believers. And now you invade my vessel. You are either brave or foolish." Chief raised his assault rifle. "I'm neither. I'm what happens when you don't know when to stop." "Then let us finish what was started," Thel Surani replied, drawing an energy sword. "For the journey. For the gods. For vengeance." The honor guards charged. And in that moment, with the fate of 2 ships, 2 crews, and 2 universes hanging in the balance, Master Chief and Ro Laren did what they'd been trained to do, what necessity had forced them to become expert at. They fought like their survival was the only mathematics that mattered. Because it was. The honor guards moved with religious fervor, their energy staves crackling with lethal force. Chief dodged the first strike, the weapon's tip passing centimeters from his helmet, superheating the air. He grabbed the staff mid-swing, his augmented strength matching the elite's powered armor, and yanked hard. The honor guard stumbled forward, directly into 3 rounds from Chief's sidearm at point-blank range. The shots punched through the ornate helmet. The elite collapsed. Ro engaged the second honor guard with her energy sword, blade meeting stave in a shower of sparks and displaced energy. She was outmatched in raw power, the elite stood nearly 8 feet tall with muscles enhanced by combat harness servos. But she fought dirty, the way resistance fighters learn to survive. When the honor guard swung high, she went low, slashing at knee joints. When it adapted, she threw a flashbang grenade at its feet. The elite's vision protection darkened automatically against the flash, but the concussive wave disrupted its shields. Ro's sword found the gap at its neck, and purple blood painted the deck plating. Shipmaster Thel Surani watched his guards die with cold calculation, then activated a control on his command gauntlet. Throughout engineering, Covenant warriors materialized from tactical positions. They've been waiting, hidden, letting the honor guards test the intruder's capabilities. 8 elites. 24 grunts. 4 jackals with beam rifles. Weapon, Chief said quietly, scanning the engineering bay for tactical advantages. Time to weapons discharge. 2 minutes 40 seconds, the weapon replied. And Chief, those beam rifles are targeting you. Snipers. Chief's shields flared as a particle beam scorched across his shoulder pauldron. The shot had been aimed at his head, but his motion tracker had given him a half-second warning. He rolled behind a support pylon as 3 more beams converged on his position, superheating metal into slag. Ro, get to the reactor. Chief ordered. Plant the charges. I'll handle the welcoming committee. You'll handle 14 hostiles alone. Ro shouted back, taking cover behind a control terminal as plasma fire chewed through her position. I've had worse odds, Chief replied, and charged directly into the Covenant formation. The Spartans had been designed to be more than soldiers. They were force multipliers, shock troops capable of turning tactical situations through sheer aggression and capability. Chief embodied that doctrine now, moving through the Covenant forces like a scythe through wheat. His assault rifle barked in controlled bursts, each round finding targets with mathematical precision. Shields flared, armor cracked, bodies fell. A grunt lunged with a plasma grenade, the weapon's adhesive surface already activated. Chief caught the grunt's arm, redirected the momentum, and threw the creature into a cluster of its fellows. The grenade detonated, blue plasma consuming them all. 2 elites converged from opposite angles, energy swords raised. Chief dropped his rifle, letting it hang from its sling, and drew his combat knife in one hand while catching a dropped energy sword with the other. The weapons felt wrong in his hands. The energy sword was too light, balanced for elite physiology, and the knife was primitive by comparison. Didn't matter. He'd trained with whatever was available. The first elite swung with precision born from centuries of swordcraft tradition. Chief parried with the energy sword, the blades shrieking as they met, then drove his knife into the elite's wrist joint. The sword fell. Chief caught it, now dual-wielding, and pressed the attack against the second elite. They fought across engineering, blades moving faster than unaugmented humans could perceive. The elite was skilled, probably a zealot or spec ops veteran, trained from youth in the art of energy combat. But Chief had spent decades fighting for survival. Skill met necessity, and necessity won. He found the opening, drove both blades through the elite's chest in an X pattern, then kicked the body away. Meanwhile, Ro had reached the slipspace reactor's maintenance platform. The massive sphere of contained energy pulsed with dimensional instabilities, its surface rippling like water. Huragok floated nearby, their tentacles working on calibrations with the focused intensity of species that existed solely to repair and maintain technology. Don't suppose you just let me sabotage this quietly? Ro asked the nearest Huragok. The engineer turned its eye stalks toward her, emitted a series of musical tones that the weapon translated as, query, why would we permit damage to optimal systems? Worth a shot, Ro muttered, pulling plasma charges from her pack. The explosives were UNSC ordnance modified with Covenant technology, shaped charges designed to punch through energy containment fields and rupture reactor cores. She began attaching them to critical junction points, working fast. A jackal beam rifle shot missed her head by centimeters. Chief! Ro shouted. Snipers are still active. Chief's motion tracker highlighted the jackal positions, elevated platforms overlooking engineering, perfect firing positions. He couldn't reach them with small arms, and his shields couldn't sustain sustained beam rifle fire. He needed to close distance or eliminate line of sight. The slip-space reactor's containment field gave him an idea. Weapon, can you destabilize the reactor's magnetic containment? Chief asked, dodging plasma fire from advancing grunts. Not enough to cause detonation, just enough to disrupt visibility. You want to use a slip-space reactor as a smoke screen? The weapon's avatar flickered with incredulity. That's insane. The energy discharge could kill everyone in engineering. Including the snipers, Chief replied. Do it. Chief. That's an order. The weapon was silent for half a second, an eternity for an AI. Then, destabilizing now. You have 5 seconds before containment reasserts. Make them count. The slip-space reactor's surface suddenly erupted with dimensional tears, miniature rifts that leaked exotic radiation and warped light around them. The entire chamber filled with blinding flashes and spatial distortions that rendered visual targeting impossible. Chief moved during that 5-second window. His enhanced vision compensated for the distortions, his neural implants processing the chaos faster than organic brains could manage. He climbed a support structure in 3 powerful jumps, shields flaring as residual radiation washed over him, and reached the sniper platforms. The jackals were disoriented, their acute vision overwhelmed by the dimensional discharge. Chief eliminated them with mechanical efficiency, knife to the first's throat, energy soared through the second's chest, the third thrown bodily from the platform to the deck 15 meters below. The fourth jackal, realizing its death approached, activated a personal shield and raised its beam rifle for a final desperate shot. Chief didn't give it time. He grabbed the rifle's barrel, superhuman strength crushing the delicate focusing array, then used the ruined weapon as a bludgeon. The jackal's shield collapsed under the impacts. So did its skull. Charges planted. Rose's voice cut through the chaos. Timer set for 3 minutes. We need to extract now. Chief dropped from the platform, shields absorbing the impact, and surveyed the engineering bay. Bodies littered the deck, mostly Covenant, but his shields were down to 12%, his armor showed multiple breaches, and ammunition was running critical. Shipmaster Thel Surani still stood on the command platform, energy sword in hand, watching with the patient calculation of a predator waiting for its prey to exhaust itself. Impressive, demon, Thel Surani said. You fight with the fury of the betrayed. But you cannot escape. My ship is sealed. Security teams converge on this location. You will die here, and your vessels will burn in plasma fire. Time to weapons discharge. Chief asked the weapon. 45 seconds, she replied. Chief, even if we detonate the charges, the weapons might fire before the reactor explodes. We need to manually sabotage the weapons control systems. Chief's eyes locked onto the command platform where Thel Surani stood. Behind the shipmaster, holographic displays showed weapon status, plasma torpedoes charged to 97%, targeting solutions locked on Infinity and Enterprise, authorization codes pending final command input. Row, get to the extraction point, Chief ordered. I'll handle the weapons systems. Chief, that platform is. Go. Chief's voice carried command authority that transcended species. Row went, sprinting toward the engineering bay's secondary exit, plasma rifle clearing scattered grunts from her path. Chief turned his full attention to Thel Surani. The shipmaster's mandibles spread in anticipation. Finally. The demon faces me alone. This is fitting. Your kind destroyed our holy sites, our purpose, our gods. I will destroy you personally, and the gods will smile upon my offering. Your gods are dead, Chief replied flatly. The Forerunners are extinct. The Halos were weapons, not salvation. The entire Covenant religion was a lie built on misunderstood technology. I know, I've been to Installation 04. I've met 343 guilty Spark. I've seen the truth you spent centuries denying. Thel Surani's expression shifted, mandibles tightening, eyes narrowing with rage so profound it transcended language barriers. Heresy. Heresy. The shipmaster charged with the fury of faith betrayed. They met in the center of engineering, energy swords clashing with force that sent shockwaves across the deck. Thel-Surani was larger, stronger, enhanced by years of combat and religious zeal. But Chief had spent his entire life fighting enemies who were bigger, stronger, more numerous. He knew how to win anyway. He fought with cold efficiency, no wasted movement, every strike calculated for maximum effect. When Thel-Surani swung with overhead power, Chief sidestepped and slashed at exposed joints. When the shipmaster adapted, Chief changed tactics, using his armor's superior shielding to trade blows, accepting minor hits to land critical strikes. 20 seconds to weapons discharge, the weapon warned. Chief, you need to reach those controls now. Chief saw the opening he needed. Thel-Surani overextended on a lunge, committed to a strike that couldn't be recalled. Chief didn't try to dodge. He stepped into the attack, letting the energy sword pierce his shields and score across his chest armor, and drove his own blade through the shipmaster's abdomen. Thel-Surani gasped, purple blood bubbling from his mandibles. You fight without honor. I fight to win, Chief replied, twisting the blade. There's a difference. The shipmaster collapsed. Chief didn't wait to watch him die. He sprinted to the command platform, his augmented speed crossing the distance in seconds, and slammed his armored fist into the weapon's control console. Sparks exploded. Holographic displays flickered and died. The charging sequence interrupted with a cascade of error messages in Covenant script. Weapons discharge aborted. The weapon confirmed. But Chief, the charges detonate in 90 seconds and were still in the blast radius. Move. Chief ran, his armor's warning system screaming about shield failure and structural damage. Behind him, the engineering bay's lights flickered red, emergency protocols activating as the sabotage reactor began its final countdown. Covenant crew members fled in panic, their tactical discipline collapsing into survival instinct. He reached the secondary exit where Ro waited, her expression tight with barely controlled fear. Took you long enough. Now how do we get off this ship? Same way we always do, Chief replied, accessing the tactical map. We steal their ride. They ran through corridors filled with evacuating Covenant forces, warriors too focused on survival to engage the intruders. The charges Chief had planted weren't just conventional explosives, they were designed to destabilize slipspace containment, which meant the reactor would fold space itself during detonation. Anyone still aboard would be torn apart at the molecular level. The Covenant knew this. They fled. Chief and Ro reached a hangar bay, smaller than the main launch facility, but containing several Phantom dropships and a Spirit troop transport. Ro made directly for the nearest Phantom, her hands moving across the Covenant control interface with surprising familiarity. You know how to fly this? Chief asked, eliminating two grunts who tried to stop them. I've stolen plenty of ships in my time, Ro replied, the Phantom's engines humming to life. Though usually they were Cardassian shuttles, not alien dropships from another universe. How hard can it be? The Phantom lifted smoothly, apparently not hard at all. They shot from the hangar bay just as the first detonation rippled through the faithful retribution. The battlecruiser's hull buckled, massive sections tearing free as the slipspace reactor imploded. Dimensional tears opened across the vessel's length, bleeding exotic energy into real space. Secondary explosions cascaded through the ship's systems. Then the reactor achieved critical collapse. The faithful retribution didn't explode so much as fold in on itself, space-time warping around the dying vessel, crushing it into an impossibly small point before releasing the compressed energy in a directed blast. The shockwave caught two nearby Covenant cruisers, their shields collapsing instantly, hulls crumpling like paper. Through the Phantom's viewport, Chief watched the destruction with cold satisfaction. One objective complete. Chief, this is Infinity, Captain Lasky's voice crackled over the comm, we saw the light show. Please tell me that's you and the stolen Covenant dropship heading our way at unsafe velocities. Confirmed, Infinity, Chief replied. Ro and I are inbound. What's the status on the breach closing operation? Enterprise and Infinity are moving into position now, Lasky reported. LaForge and Data completed the power transfer systems. We're ready to attempt the procedure. But Chief, the remaining Covenant ships are regrouping. They're angry, and they know we're responsible for destroying their command vessel. We're about to have company. Let them come, Chief said, looking at the dimensional breach ahead, still pulsing with chaotic energy, a wound between realities that refuse to heal. We're closing that breach, no matter what it costs. Ro glanced at him, her expression unreadable. You really mean that, don't you? No matter the cost. Yes, Chief replied simply. Because the alternative is watching two universes bleed into each other until both collapse. Some choices are simple math. Simple math, Ro repeated softly. Except the numbers you're counting are lives. Yours included. Chief didn't respond. He'd stopped counting his own life in the calculations a long time ago. The Phantom streaked toward Infinity's hangar as behind them, the remaining Covenant fleet, now leaderless, furious, and desperate, began their final assault on the two human vessels standing between them and their dimensional conquest. The real battle was about to begin. The Phantom dropship settled into Infinity's hangar with a controlled crash that spoke to Ro's piloting skill under pressure. Chief was moving before the landing struts fully deployed, his boots hitting deck plating as Marines rushed forward with medical teams and damage assessment crews. Commander Palmer appeared through the organized chaos, her expression equal parts relief and tactical urgency. Chief, Ro, medical bay, now, Palmer ordered. You both look like you went through a meat grinder. Later, Chief replied, already moving toward the bridge. What's the tactical situation? Palmer fell into step beside him, pulling up holographic displays on her tactical pad. 4 Covenant cruisers remaining, all converging on our position. They're coordinating fire patterns, learned behavior from watching us destroy their command ship. Enterprise is holding position adjacent to the breach, and our engineering teams have successfully linked power systems. LaForge says they're ready to attempt the breach closure, but the Covenant won't give us the time, Chief finished, reaching the bridge. The situation was immediately clear on the tactical displays. 4 CRS-class cruisers moved in diamond formation, plasma torpedoes charging, energy projectors tracking both human vessels. They'd positioned themselves to create overlapping fields of fire. Any attempt to close the breach would require Infinity and Enterprise to maintain stationary positions for the duration of the procedure, making them perfect targets. Captain Lasky turned from his command chair. Master Chief, glad you're still breathing. We've got a problem. The power transfer procedure requires both ships to divert all available energy to the breach closing operation. That means minimal shields, no weapons, and approximately 4 minutes of complete vulnerability while the dimensional cauterization completes. 4 minutes against 4 cruisers, Chief said, studying the formation. They'll tear through our hulls before we finish. Exactly, Lasky confirmed. We need time. We need those Covenant ships delayed, distracted, or destroyed. Our MAC cannons can take out maybe 2 before they overwhelm our defenses, but the remaining vessels will finish us. Chief's tactical mind processed vectors, timing, capabilities. What about longsword fighters? A strike wing could harass their formation, force them to divert point defense systems. Already scrambled, Palmer replied. But longswords are outnumbered 3-to-1 by Seraph fighters. Our pilots are good, but they're buying us minutes at best, not the sustained engagement window we need. The weapon's avatar materialized on the bridge's holotank, her expression troubled. There's another factor. The dimensional breach is destabilizing faster since we destroyed the faithful Retribution. Its slip space reactor was actually providing a stabilizing influence, like a splint on a broken bone. Now that it's gone, the breach is expanding at an accelerated rate. We have maybe 30 minutes before it reaches cascade failure. What happens at cascade failure? Lasky asked. Uncontrolled dimensional merger, Data's voice interjected over the comm channel from Enterprise. The breach would expand exponentially, creating a permanent fusion between your universe and ours along an ever-widening front. Both realities would experience catastrophic spatial distortions, gravitational anomalies, and fundamental physics conflicts. In essence, both universes would be destroyed along the merger boundary. So we have 30 minutes to close the breach, but we need 4 minutes of uninterrupted time that the Covenant won't give us, Riker summarized over the channel. Captain Lasky, Captain Picard, I think it's time we considered calling for Starfleet reinforcements. The nearest task force could be here in 3 hours, Picard's voice cut in, calm but carrying the weight of impossible mathematics. I've already contacted Starfleet Command. Admiral Nechayev is assembling a fleet, but they cannot arrive in time. This will be decided by the forces already present. Silence fell across both bridges as the reality settled. 2 ships, one from each universe, standing alone against an enemy they'd barely begun to understand, with the fate of both realities hanging on their ability to hold for 4 critical minutes. Ro limped onto Infinity's bridge, her combat armor scorched and cracked, but her eyes sharp. I've been listening to your tactical discussion. You need a distraction, something the Covenant can't ignore long enough to give you the 4 minutes. What if we give them a target they can't resist? Explain, Chief said. Ro pulled up the breach on the holographic display. The Covenant followed you through this dimensional rift because they want to continue their holy war in this universe. They see the breach as a doorway to infinite conquest, more worlds to convert, more heretics to purge. What if we threaten to close it from the other side? We can't access their universe, Lasky said. Our slipspace drive is non-functional. But they don't know that, Ro countered. We send a message on all Covenant frequencies, claim we're sending a strike team through the breach to destroy their staging facilities on the other side. Make them believe we're about to cut off their entire invasion force. They'll have to respond. Palmer nodded slowly. Covenant doctrine prioritizes protecting strategic assets. If they think we're threatening their home position, they'll have to divide forces, some to engage us, some to defend the breach's far side. But we can't actually send anyone through, Lasky said. The breach is too unstable. Anyone who entered would be torn apart by dimensional shear forces. Unless, the weapon said slowly, her avatar flickering with rapid calculations, unless someone went through in a vessel with adaptive shielding. Something that could modulate its defensive systems to match both dimensional frameworks simultaneously. Like a Pelican dropship with Spartan-grade shields? Chief asked. Or better, the Phantom we just stole, the weapon replied. Covenant ships are designed for slipspace travel. Their shields naturally interface with dimensional boundaries. If we modified the Phantom systems to bridge both slipspace and subspace frequencies, it could theoretically survive passage through the breach. Theoretically, Geordi LaForge's voice interjected over the comm, the Enterprise's chief engineer sounding both fascinated and horrified. But chief, theoretically, means about a 40% survival probability. The dimensional stresses would crush any biological organism that didn't have extraordinary shielding. Even Spartan augmentations might not be enough. Chief was already moving toward the hangar. Then we make sure the shields hold. How long to modify the Phantom? 15 minutes, Geordi replied. But Chief, this is a one-way trip. Even if you survive entering the breach, you'd be stranded in the other universe with no way back. The Phantom doesn't have slipspace capability, only local maneuvering thrusters. Doesn't need to be a round trip, Chief said. Just needs to be convincing enough that the Covenant believes we're threatening their staging area. Once they commit forces to defending the far side, you'll have your 4-minute window. Chief, this is suicide, Palmer said flatly, following him off the bridge. You're asking to fly into dimensional chaos, survive passage into an unknown universe, and then what? Hope you can cause enough damage to distract an entire Covenant fleet before they kill you? Yes, Chief replied simply. Absolutely not, Lasky's voice crackled over the comm. Master Chief, I appreciate your dedication, but I'm not authorizing a suicide mission. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Captain, Chief said. Reaching the hangar where the stolen Phantom sat under guard. The math is simple. 1 Spartan's life versus 2 universes. That's not suicide, that's arithmetic. Picard's voice joined the channel, carrying the weight of decades of command decisions. Master Chief, in the Federation, we have a principle: the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. But we also believe that every life has value, that sacrifice should be the last resort, not the first option. There must be an alternative. Captain Picard, Chief replied, his voice carrying no emotion, no plea, just statement of fact. I've spent my entire life being that last resort. It's what Spartans were designed for. You use every other option first, and when they all fail, you send us. This is one of those moments. He's right, Rose's voice cut in. She'd followed them to the hangar, limping but determined. I've fought impossible battles. I've watched people sacrifice themselves because no one else could. Sometimes the only way forward is through the fire, and someone has to be willing to burn. Ro, not you too, Picard said, audible pain in his voice. I won't order either of you on a suicide mission. You're not ordering us, Captain, Ro replied. We're volunteering. There's a difference. Chief looked at her, surprise flickering behind his visor. You're coming. Someone needs to pilot, Ro said. You're a soldier, not a ship's helmsman. I've got more experience with unconventional navigation. Plus, if we're going to threaten Covenant staging facilities, it'll be more convincing with 2 signatures entering the breach instead of 1. They'll read it as an actual strike team, not a lone suicide run. Ro, Picard started. Captain, with respect, I've spent my whole life fighting for survival, Ro interrupted. My planet, my people, my own existence, always a battle against impossible odds. Maybe this is what all that suffering prepared me for. Maybe this is the moment where all those hard lessons matter. Chief studied her through his golden visor, processing. She was offering to die beside him. Not because she was ordered, not because she had no choice, but because she'd calculated the same mathematics he had and reached the same conclusion. In that moment, she understood what it meant to be Spartan better than most UNSC personnel ever would. Geordi, Chief said into the comm, you have 10 minutes to modify that Phantom. Ro and I are going through. Chief, Captain Lasky, someone talk sense into them. Palmer pleaded. There has to be another way. There isn't, Lasky said quietly, his voice carrying the exhaustion of a commander who'd made too many impossible choices. And I hate that there isn't. Master Chief, Ro, if you're determined to do this, then make it count. Give us those 4 minutes. We'll close the breach, stop the invasion, and... He paused. And we'll remember what you did here. Remembering is for later, Chief replied, watching as Infinity's engineering teams swarmed the Phantom with equipment. Right now, we focus on mission success. Data's voice crackled over the comm, clinical but with an edge of something almost like emotion. Master Chief, Ro, I have calculated the modifications necessary for the Phantom's shields to survive dimensional transition. However, I must inform you that even with optimal configuration, the probability of survival is 41.3%. The human organism is not designed for exposure to contradictory physical laws. I've survived worse odds, Chief said. No, Data corrected gently. You have survived better odds that you perceived as worse due to incomplete information. These odds are mathematically precise. You have a 58.7% chance of dying during transition. I thought you should know the actual numbers. Chief appreciated the android's honesty. Acknowledged, Commander Data. Thank you. The weapon's avatar appeared in Chief's HUD, her expression carrying more emotion than he'd ever seen from her. Chief, if you do this, if you go through that breach, our neural connection will be severed. I'm stored in your armor systems. The dimensional transition will scramble my quantum matrices. I'll. She paused, something like fear flickering across her face. I'll fragment. Lose cohesion. It'll be like dying. Chief had lost AIs before. Cortana, the original, not the created version, had sacrificed herself to save him. Every AI he'd worked with had known they'd eventually succumb to rampancy. But this was different. The weapon wasn't dying from natural degradation. She'd be killed by his choice. I'm sorry, Chief said quietly. If there was another way. There isn't, the weapon interrupted, her voice steady. We both know that. I'm not asking you not to go. I'm asking you to remember that I was real, that I mattered, even if I only existed for 8 months. Will you do that, Chief? Yes, Chief promised. I'll remember. Then that's enough, the weapon said. It has to be. Geordie LaForge emerged from the Phantom, wiping his hands on a cloth. Modifications complete. I've synchronized the shields to modulate between slipspace and subspace frequencies. It'll buy you a few seconds during transition. Maybe enough. Maybe is better than nothing, Rose said, climbing into the Phantom's cockpit. Chief, you ready? Chief stood at the edge of the hangar bay, looking out at the stars, so different from the ones he knew, constellations his home universe would never see. Somewhere beyond the dimensional breach was everything he'd fought for, the UNSC, humanity's colonies, the fragile peace they'd built from the ashes of the Covenant War. And he was about to leave it all behind. Chief, Lasky's voice said quietly over a private channel. John. You don't have to do this. We can find another option. We can. No, we can't, Chief replied. You know that as well as I do. Someone has to go through, and I'm the only one equipped to survive. This is what Spartans do, Captain. We take the missions no one else can. We pay the costs no one else should have to. It's not heroism, it's just what we were made for. You were made for more than dying, Lasky said. You deserve to come home. Maybe, Chief said. But deserving and getting are different things. Take care of Infinity, Captain. And if you make it back to our universe someday, tell them I completed the mission. I will, Lasky promised, his voice thick with emotion he couldn't quite suppress. Chief climbed into the Phantom's troop bay, maglocking himself to the bulkhead. Through the cockpit viewport, he could see the dimensional breach, a swirling maelstrom of impossible colors that would either deliver them to the other side or tear them into constituent atoms. All systems green, Rowe reported from the pilot's seat. As green as they're going to get for flying into a dimensional rift, anyway. You sure about this, Chief? No, Chief admitted. But certainty is a luxury we don't have. Rowe laughed, a short, bitter sound. At least you're honest. All right then, Master Chief. Let's go save 2 universes and probably die doing it. The Phantom's engines roared to life. On both Infinity and Enterprise, crews watched in silence as the small craft lifted from the hangar bay and accelerated toward the breach. Behind it, 4 Covenant cruisers detected the movement and immediately shifted formation, some moving to intercept, others repositioning to defend the breach's far side, exactly as predicted. The distraction was working. All ships, this is Captain Picard, the Federation captain's voice broadcast on all channels. Infinity, Enterprise, begin the breach closing procedure. We have our window. Make it count. Chief felt the Phantom shudder as it approached the breach's event horizon. The shields began modulating. Frequency shifting across impossible spectrums. Through the viewport, reality started to fragment. He could see multiple versions of the same stars, overlapping, contradicting, existing simultaneously in states that violated causality. Transition in 5 seconds, Rowe announced, her voice tight with controlled fear. 4. 3. 2. The weapon's avatar appeared one final time in Chief's HUD, smiling despite everything. "Goodbye, John. Thank you for making my short existence meaningful." 1. They plunged into the breach. And reality screamed. The Phantom crossed the dimensional threshold, and Chief's world became pain. Not physical agony, though his augmented body registered damage across every system, but something deeper. Existential torment. His neural implants fired contradictory signals as two sets of physics tried to occupy the same quantum space. His enhanced vision saw colors that couldn't exist, his motion tracker detected movement in directions that had no names. Time dilated and compressed simultaneously, he experienced seconds as hours while hours passed as microseconds. The shields held. Barely. Covenant technology, designed for slip-space transitions, interfaced with Geordi's modifications to create a bubble of semi-stable reality around the Phantom. But the dimensional shear forces were extraordinary. Chief felt his consciousness fragmenting, splitting across multiple probability states. He existed in a superposition, simultaneously alive and dead, here and there, intact and destroyed. Somewhere in his degrading neural network, the weapon screamed. Her quantum matrices couldn't survive the transition. She'd warned him, but knowing and experiencing were different. Chief felt her presence in his armor systems dissolving, not dying quickly, but fragmenting slowly, coherence bleeding away like water through clenched fingers. Her final words echoed across collapsing data pathways, "Remember me, remember me, remember." Then silence. The weapon was gone. "Chief." Rose's voice cut through the chaos, her pilot training keeping her functional despite impossible circumstances. "I'm reading dimensional stabilization ahead. We're breaking through." The Phantom burst from the breach's far side like a missile launched from hell itself. Chief's sensors rebooted, struggling to process new data. They were in space, familiar space. These star patterns matched UNSC charts. The Milky Way galaxy, their home universe, but not their home time. The breach had displaced them both spatially and temporally. And they weren't alone. Spread before them was a Covenant staging area that made the defensive fleet look insignificant. Dozens of ships, CCS-class battlecruisers, CAS-class assault carriers, CPV-class heavy destroyers, hung in formation around a massive space station of Forerunner design. Thousands of Seraph fighters patrolled the perimeter. On nearby moons, Chief could see construction facilities pumping out new vessels with industrial efficiency. This wasn't just a staging area. This was a full fleet assembly point, preparing for a dimensional invasion. "Holy," Ro breathed, her hands frozen on the controls. "Chief, that's an entire battle group. Multiple carrier-class vessels. If they all come through the breach, then both universes burn," Chief finished, his voice rough from the neural trauma. "Weapon, assess," he stopped, remembering. She was gone. He'd have to do this alone. His armor's basic tactical system still functioned, running local analysis without AI support. The Phantom's weapons were minimal, plasma cannons, a single fuel rod gun, nothing that could threaten capital ships. But the station at the fleet center, that Forerunner facility coordinating operations. "That's their command hub," Chief said. "Destroy it, and the fleet loses coordination. They'll be forced to withdraw forces from the breach to re-establish control here." "Chief, we can't destroy that station," Ro replied. "It's kilometers across, heavily shielded, and we've got one dropship with weapons designed for ground support, not capital ship engagement. We don't need to destroy it," Chief said, his tactical mind calculating possibilities from scraps. "We just need to make them think we can. Get us in close. I'll board the station, plant whatever explosives we have left, and create enough chaos that they believe a full UNSC strike force is here." A bluff, Ro realized. You want to bluff an entire Covenant fleet. Unless you have a better idea. Ro was quiet for 3 seconds, a lifetime in combat situations. Then she laughed, a sound balanced precariously between hysteria and admiration. You know what? I've survived Cardassian occupation, Starfleet courts-martial, and a trip through a dimensional hellscape. Why not add bluffing genocidal aliens to my resume? Hold on. The Phantom dove toward the station at unsafe velocities, Rose piloting pushing the stolen craft beyond its design specifications. Seraph fighters detected them immediately, energy weapons charging. Ro executed a barrel roll that should have torn the Phantom apart but instead carried them through a gap in the patrol pattern. They're hailing us, Ro reported. Demanding identification codes. Ignore them, Chief ordered. By the time they confirm we're hostile, we'll either be aboard the station or dead. Either way, their hails won't matter. Plasma torpedoes streaked past the Phantom's hull, proximity alarms screaming. Ro jinked left, then dove, using the station's own defensive batteries as cover. The Covenant gunners couldn't fire without risk of hitting their own facility. It was brilliant flying, the kind that came from someone who'd spent years outrunning people who wanted her dead. Landing bay ahead, Ro announced. Unshielded, they're launching fighters. If we time this right. She didn't finish the sentence, just sent the Phantom into a screaming dive directly into the hangar bay's opening. A Spirit dropship was emerging just as they entered. Ro fired the plasma cannons, not at the Spirit but at the bay's structural supports. The ceiling collapsed, debris raining down, and in the confusion the Phantom crashed into the hangar deck with force that crumpled its forward stabilizers. Chief was moving before the dust settled, his armor's jump jets carrying him from the wreckage. Ro followed, energy sword ignited, as Covenant forces swarmed toward them. Grunts, jackals, elites, all converging on the intrusion. Chief fought with the cold efficiency of someone who'd already calculated his own death and moved past it. Every movement was economical, every shot counted. His shields recharged between engagements, Mjolnir armor's Forerunner-enhanced systems adapting to damage faster than Covenant warriors could capitalize. He was a Spartan, humanity's finest weapon, and he was showing the Covenant exactly why that designation was earned. Ro fought beside him with guerrilla tactics honed by necessity, using cover aggressively, striking from unexpected angles, exploiting enemy coordination failures. When three elites tried to flank Chief, she dropped a plasma grenade behind them and drove them forward into his field of fire. When jackals formed a shield wall, she threw a flashbang and Chief charged through the gap, knife-finding throats. They fought their way deeper into the station, leaving carnage in their wake. Chief, what's the plan? Ro shouted over weapons fire. We're inside, but we can't hold this position indefinitely. Chief accessed his armor's remaining charge inventory. 3 plasma charges, 2 fragmentary grenades, and 1 jerry-rigged nuclear device, a tactical nuke salvaged from a longsword fighter's payload that Infinity's Marines had been saving for special occasions. This qualified. We plant the nuke at the station's reactor core, Chief said, updating Ro's tactical display with the route. Full-yield detonation will destroy the station and cripple the staging fleet. But we need to reach the core, 3 kilometers through hostile territory, probably dozens of security checkpoints, and an increasingly aware defense force. So, a normal Tuesday for you, Rose said, reloading her plasma rifle with a power cell scavenged from a dead elite. Lead the way, Master Chief. I'm right behind you. They moved through the station like a surgical strike force, fast, lethal, unstoppable. Chief had fought aboard Covenant facilities before, knew their design philosophy, modular construction, redundant systems, religious aesthetics merged with practical functionality. He navigated instinctively, his Spartan training and decades of experience compensating for the absence of AI guidance. Security doors sealed ahead of them. Chief planted plasma charges, blew them open. Elite Spec Ops teams appeared in active camouflage. Ro detected the distortions with reflexes honed by fighting Cardassian soldiers who used similar technology, called targets, and Chief eliminated them with precision. They reached a gravity lift, vertical transport to lower levels where the reactor core pulsed with contained fusion energy. Chief grabbed Ro, activated his jump jets, and they plummeted down the shaft at terminal velocity, his shields absorbing the impact at the bottom. The reactor chamber was cathedral-like, massive, lit by the blue-white glow of fusion containment fields, with control systems that blended Covenant and Forerunner design aesthetics. Engineers worked at terminals, oblivious to intrusion. Until Chief's assault rifle spoke, and they fell. Security response in 90 seconds, Ro estimated, watching the sealed doors around the chamber. We need to work fast. Chief pulled the tactical nuke from its case, a cylindrical device about the size of a fuel rod cannon, marked with UNSC ordnance codes and enough explosive yield to vaporize the station. He began interfacing it with the reactor's control systems, bypassing Covenant security protocols through brute force hacking that the weapon would have accomplished in microseconds but took him agonizing minutes. Behind him, Ro had taken up a defensive position, her energy sword and plasma rifle ready. The doors began opening, elite warriors pouring through, recognizing the threat. One human with a nuclear device was more dangerous than 100 conventional soldiers. Chief, they're coming. Ro shouted, opening fire. Almost there, Chief replied, his hands working faster than baseline human reflexes could manage. The nuke's timer interface appeared, he set it for 5 minutes. Enough time to extract. Maybe. Device armed. We need to move. He turned to find Ro surrounded. 20 elites in the chamber, energy swords drawn, plasma rifles aimed. They'd come prepared to die preventing the detonation, willing to sacrifice themselves to protect their fleet. Ro stood in the center of their formation, bloodied but unbowed, her energy sword casting purple light across her determined face. Chief, she said calmly, too calmly. Run. I'll buy you time. Negative, Chief replied, raising his weapons. We extract together. There's no extraction from this, Ro said, and he could hear the acceptance in her voice, the tone of someone who'd always known it would end like this. You said it yourself, the mission comes first. That nuke needs to detonate. If we both die fighting these elites, the Covenant will disarm it. But if you run now, I can hold them here long enough for the timer to count down. Your armor's faster than mine. You can make it to the hangar, steal another dropship, maybe reach the breach before the station explodes. Maybe isn't good enough, Chief growled. It's all we've got, Ro replied. Chief, John, I've spent my whole life fighting for survival. For once, let me fight for something bigger. Let me die knowing it mattered. Please. The elites were advancing, closing the circle. Chief calculated trajectories, engagement vectors, probability matrices. She was right, together, they might hold for 2 minutes before being overwhelmed. Alone, Ro could buy him 4, maybe 5. Just barely enough time to reach extraction. The mission. Always the mission. Chief hated the math. Hated that it made sense. Hated that Spartans were trained to accept these calculations. But he'd been trained too well to reject them now. You're sure? He asked. I'm sure, Ro said, smiling despite everything. Tell Picard I finally found a regulation worth following. Tell him I went out my way, fighting impossible odds for the right reasons. And Chief, thank you for showing me what it means to be a soldier who's also still human. Even you, with all your augmentations and armor. You're more human than you think. Chief nodded once, a warrior's acknowledgement. Then he ran. Behind him, Ro's energy sword ignited with a war cry that would have made her Bajoran ancestors proud. The elites charged to meet her, and the reactor chamber became a battlefield where one small woman held the line against impossible odds because someone had to, and she'd chosen it would be her. Chief didn't look back. Couldn't. Looking back meant acknowledging what he was leaving behind, and Spartans were trained not to acknowledge costs, only completion. He fought through security teams with mechanical efficiency, his movements now tinged with something that might have been rage or might have been grief. It was hard to tell the difference anymore. Every elite that stood between him and extraction died. Every barrier that tried to stop him crumbled. He was Master Chief, humanity's greatest weapon, and nothing would prevent mission completion. He reached the hangar where a Phantom sat unattended, pilots scrambling to respond to the station-wide emergency. Chief hijacked it in seconds, the systems recognizing Covenant command codes he'd memorized years ago. The dropship lifted, engines screaming, and shot from the hangar into open space. Behind him, the timer counted down. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute. Chief pushed the Phantom to maximum velocity, racing away from the station as Covenant fighters scrambled to intercept. Energy weapons scored across his shields, but his piloting, crude compared to Rose's skill but adequate, kept him ahead of the worst fire. 30 seconds. The dimensional breach appeared ahead, still pulsing with chaotic energy. Chief aimed for its center, praying the Phantom's shields could survive one more transition. The tactical nuke detonated. 50 megatons of fusion energy released instantaneously, vaporizing the Forerunner station and everything within a 1,000-kilometer radius. The shockwave caught the Covenant staging fleet, overwhelming shields, cracking hulls, setting off chain reactions across multiple vessels. Secondary explosions rippled through the formation like dominoes falling. The blast wave caught the Phantom, sent it tumbling toward the breach. Chief plunged through dimensional chaos a second time, and once again reality tore itself apart around him. The Phantom emerged from the breach trailing plasma fire and dimensional distortions, its shields failing in cascading sequences. Chief fought the controls as the dropship spun wildly, artificial gravity offline, structural integrity warnings screaming across every system. Through the viewport, he saw Enterprise and Infinity holding position, both ships directing massive energy streams into the dimensional breach, the cauterization procedure, finally underway. The breach was collapsing. Its edges folded inward like a wound healing in accelerated time, exotic energies bleeding away into higher dimensions. The swirling maelstrom of impossible colors contracted, shrinking from 2 kilometers across to 1, then half that. The combined power of Federation antimatter reactions and UNSC fusion technology, channeled through the carefully synchronized conduits Geordi and Data had constructed, was burning the dimensional tear closed. But it wasn't complete yet. And the Phantom was dying. Mayday, Chief transmitted on all frequencies, his voice hoarse from neural trauma. This is Master Chief, requesting emergency recovery. Shields critical, propulsion failing, hull breaches on multiple decks. Chief. Palmer's voice exploded across the comm, relief and disbelief warring in her tone. You're alive. We saw the detonation through the breach, thought you'd been vaporized with the station. Not yet, Chief replied, fighting to stabilize the Phantom's spin. But I need immediate extraction. This dropship won't hold together much longer. Enterprise is dispatching a shuttle, Picard's voice cut in. But Chief, the breach is closing. If you don't clear the collapse radius in the next 60 seconds, the dimensional shear forces will tear you apart regardless of your ship's condition. Chief checked his velocity and vector. The Phantom's thrusters were responding sluggishly, damaged by the nuclear shockwave and dimensional transition stress. Maximum thrust would get him clear, barely, but not if the ship fragmented first. The hull was already buckling, atmosphere venting from a dozen breaches, emergency systems offline. He pushed the thrusters to maximum anyway. Because Spartans didn't calculate surrender probabilities. The Phantom accelerated away from the collapsing breach, Chief manually compensating for drift as pieces of the ship's outer hull sheared away. 50 meters. 100. 200. The breach contracted behind him, its edges now moving faster than light in localized spacetime as the dimensional framework separated. A Covenant Seraph fighter appeared from nowhere, emerging from the breach in a final desperate escape attempt. Its pilot, panicked or suicidal, fired everything, pulse lasers, plasma cannons, at the nearest target. The Phantom. Chief saw the shots coming with enhanced reaction time, tried to evade, but the crippled dropship couldn't respond fast enough. Plasma hammered into the starboard engine assembly. The fusion containment failed. The engine exploded, and the Phantom cartwheeled out of control, directly back toward the collapsing breach. "Chief!" Multiple voices shouted simultaneously, Palmer, Lasky, Picard, but there was nothing they could do. He was too far, moving too fast in the wrong direction, and the breach's final collapse was seconds away. Chief made a decision that would have been suicide for anyone else. He activated his armor's emergency thruster pack, designed for zero-gravity maneuvering during EVA operations, not high-velocity space jumps, and blew the Phantom's side hatch. Decompression sucked him into space, his shields flaring as debris pelted his armor. He tumbled end over end, the breach growing larger in his vision, its collapsing edges creating gravitational distortions that pulled him inexorably toward oblivion. The armor's thrusters fired at maximum burn, fighting physics that made no concessions to bravery. Chief's HUD calculated trajectories, displayed probability of escape, showed the cold mathematics of survival. 12% chance. The breach collapsed to a pinpoint, dimensional energies reaching critical density. And then it exploded. Not outward with destructive force, but inward in a final violent release as both universes rejected the unnatural connection. Space-time itself rippled with the backlash, creating shockwaves that propagated through subspace and normal space simultaneously. The wave caught Chief, accelerated him away from the breach point at velocities his armor wasn't designed to survive. He blacked out as G-forces exceeded even Spartan tolerances. When consciousness returned, seconds or hours later, his temporal sense was scrambled. Chief found himself floating in space, armor systems screaming damage alerts. His shields were gone. Multiple hull breaches across the Mjolnir suit. Oxygen reserves at 19% and dropping. But he was alive, and the breach was gone. Completely sealed. No trace remained of the dimensional tear except residual exotic particles that Infinity's sensors would study for weeks. "Chief, respond." Palmer's voice, desperate. "We've got your beacon, but it's faint. Pelican inbound for recovery, ETA 90 seconds. Can you confirm consciousness?" "Confirmed," Chief rasped, his voice barely functional. "Mission complete. Breach sealed. Covenant staging fleet destroyed." Silence greeted his report, the silence of people processing impossible victory snatched from certain defeat. Then Lasky's voice, thick with emotion. "Confirmed, Master Chief. Mission accomplished. Now get back to this ship." "That's an order." The Pelican, piloted by Patterson, who'd somehow survived his own harrowing escape, materialized beside Chief's drifting form. The crew chief extended a recovery arm, magnetic locks engaging with Chief's armor, and pulled him into the troop bay. As the Pelican accelerated toward Infinity, Chief allowed himself one moment of weakness. He closed his eyes and remembered. The weapon's final fragmented transmission. Rose's last stand in the reactor chamber, holding the line so he could complete the mission. Every Spartan who died in training, every Marine lost in the Covenant War, every sacrifice that had built the mathematics of survival one death at a time. He was so tired of the math. The Pelican settled into Infinity's hangar, and suddenly Chief was surrounded by medical teams, Marines cheering, Spartans standing at attention in silent salute. Palmer pushed through the crowd, her expression fierce with relief. "Chief, you magnificent bastard," she said, gripping his shoulder. "You actually did it. Destroyed an entire Covenant staging fleet with a hijacked dropship and a stolen nuke. That's going in the record books." "Wasn't just me," Chief replied, his voice quiet. Ro Laren held the Covenant forces at the reactor. Without her sacrifice, the nuke would have been disarmed. She bought the time I needed. Palmer's expression sobered. Then we'll honor her memory. A warrior's death for a warrior's cause. She'll be remembered. Chief nodded, too exhausted for more words. The medical teams tried to guide him toward the medical bay, but he waved them off. Bridge first. Need to confirm mission status with both captains. They didn't argue. Spartans had earned certain privileges through blood. On Infinity's bridge, the view screen showed Enterprise holding position, both ships now safely distant from where the breach had been. Captain Lasky stood from his command chair as Chief entered, and for a moment, the professional military distance collapsed. Lasky crossed the bridge and extended his hand. "Master Chief," Lasky said simply. "Thank you. For everything." Chief shook the offered hand, recognizing the gesture's significance. Lasky was acknowledging him not as a weapon or asset, but as a person who'd made impossible choices and survived. The view screen flickered, and Picard's face appeared, his expression carrying profound sorrow mixed with respect. "Master Chief, we detected the detonation through the breach before it closed. The energy signature was consistent with a high-yield nuclear device. Can you confirm Lieutenant Commander Rollaren's status?" "She didn't make it," Chief said, the words heavy. "She held the Covenant forces at the reactor core to ensure the device would detonate. Without her actions, the mission would have failed." Picard closed his eyes briefly, pain flickering across his features. Ro was difficult, stubborn, unwilling to accept orders she disagreed with. But she was also brave, principled, and willing to sacrifice herself for a cause greater than personal survival. The Federation will remember her. I will remember her. "She asked me to tell you something," Chief said. "She said she finally found a regulation worth following. And that she went out her way, fighting impossible odds for the right reasons." Picard nodded slowly, a sad smile touching his lips. "That sounds exactly like her. Thank you, Master Chief. For bringing those words back. And for giving her a death that meant something. In a universe that often seemed determined to break her spirit, she found meaning at the end. That matters." Data appeared beside Picard on the Enterprise bridge, his android features carrying their own version of grief, learned emotion, but no less genuine for being artificial. "Master Chief, I must inform you of additional casualties. The weapon's quantum signature was detected fragmenting during your initial breach transition. As an artificial intelligence dependent on stable dimensional frameworks, she could not survive the passage. Her final transmissions were distressed. I believe she experienced what humans would call fear. I am sorry." Chief had known, of course. Had felt her presence dissolve during the transition. But hearing it confirmed still carried weight. Another AI lost. Another companion who'd served faithfully until the moment existence became impossible. She knew the risks, Chief said quietly. She chose to come anyway. That was her decision, made freely. I'll honor it by remembering she was more than just code and quantum calculations. She was real. She mattered. As do you, Master Chief, Picard said, his voice gentle but firm. You have completed an impossible mission, saved 2 universes from mutual destruction, and paid a price that most could not bear. But I want you to understand something, you are not just a weapon. You are a person who has endured extraordinary circumstances and made extraordinary sacrifices. That deserves recognition, not as military efficiency, but as human courage. Chief didn't know how to respond to that. Spartans weren't trained for philosophical discussions about their personhood. They were trained to complete missions. But something in Picard's words resonated with a part of himself he'd learned to suppress decades ago, the 6-year-old boy who'd been taken from his family and told his life belonged to humanity now. Captain Picard, Chief said carefully, in my universe, we learned that survival requires sacrifice. That peace is something you fight for, not something you start with. Your Federation represents a different path, one where diplomacy comes first, where exploration matters more than conquest. I don't know if that philosophy would have survived in my reality. But I hope it thrives in yours. And I hope, Picard replied, that your universe finds a way to heal from its wars. To move beyond survival mode and toward the kind of civilization where children aren't turned into weapons, where sacrifice isn't the first resort, where peace becomes possible not through strength alone, but through understanding. Perhaps this encounter will remind both our civilizations of what we can learn from each other. Lasky cleared his throat. Speaking of which, we still have a significant problem. Infinity's slipspace drive is non-functional. We can't return to our universe without it. Commander LaForge, Data, what's your assessment on repairs? Geordi's voice crackled over the comm. Captain Lasky, I won't sugarcoat it, your slipspace technology is beyond anything in Federation databases. It's a hybrid of human engineering and Forerunner modifications that operate on dimensional principles we barely understand. Data and I can attempt repairs, but we're talking months of work, possibly years. And that's assuming we can even acquire the exotic materials necessary for dimensional drive components. So we're stranded, Palmer said flatly. Not stranded, Picard corrected gently. Guests. The Federation will provide whatever resources you need, repair facilities, scientific expertise, diplomatic support. Your crew has saved our universe from dimensional collapse and Covenant invasion. We owe you more than we can ever repay. We don't need repayment, Lasky replied. We need purpose. 17,000 UNSC personnel aboard Infinity, all trained for military operations, now stuck in a universe that, from what we've seen, doesn't operate on the same threat level we're accustomed to. Captain Picard, what do you do with a warship full of soldiers when there's no war to fight? You help them remember how to be people again, Picard answered. The Federation has counselors, support programs, resources for veterans transitioning from combat roles. You've spent decades at war. Perhaps this displacement is an opportunity, to heal, to learn a different way of existence, to show your crew that survival isn't the only goal worth pursuing. Chief listened to the exchange, processing. A universe where Spartans weren't necessary. Where the endless cycle of combat and sacrifice could pause, even temporarily. It seemed almost impossible. But then again, he'd just survived 2 trips through a dimensional breach, destroyed a Covenant staging fleet, and helped seal a wound between realities. Impossible was relative. Master Chief, Lasky said, turning to him. You've earned rest. Extended leave, medical recovery, whatever you need. The mission is complete. For once, you're allowed to stop being a weapon. Chief looked down at his scarred, battered armor. At the empty space in his HUD where the weapon's avatar should have been. At the metaphorical weight of decades spent fighting wars that consumed everything they touched. Permission to remain on duty, sir, Chief said. Someone needs to help coordinate with Starfleet, provide tactical assessments of potential Covenant incursions, train their security personnel on engagement protocols. Chief, Palmer interrupted, her voice carrying unusual gentleness. Tom's right. You've been in combat since you were 14 years old. 30+ years of continuous operations. When was the last time you just stopped? Allowed yourself to exist without a mission objective? Chief didn't have an answer. Couldn't remember a time when mission parameters weren't defining his existence. That's what I thought, Palmer said. So here's a new mission, learn how to be John instead of Master Chief. Explore this universe without tactical assessments. Talk to people without evaluating threat levels. Figure out what you actually want instead of just completing whatever objective someone assigns you. Think you can handle that? It was the hardest mission anyone had ever given him. I'll try, Chief said finally. That's all we ask, Lasky replied. The view screen showed both ships against the starfield, Infinity with its brutal pragmatic design, Enterprise with its elegant exploration aesthetic. 2 philosophies, 2 approaches to existence, now bound together by shared sacrifice and mutual respect. Somewhere in the space where the dimensional breach had been, exotic particles still danced, the last remnants of a wound between universes that 2 warriors had died to seal. The Federation would study those particles for decades, write papers about dimensional mechanics, theorize about the nature of reality. But Chief would remember them differently. As markers of the price 2 people paid so everyone else could live. As proof that sometimes the mathematics of survival required calculations that shattered the calculators. As evidence that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to step forward anyway when the numbers said you shouldn't. He would remember the weapon's final fragmented message. Ro Laren's last stand. Every Spartan who'd come before him and every one who'd come after. The long chain of sacrifice that had bought humanity's survival one death at a time. And maybe, just maybe, in this universe where peace was possible and exploration mattered more than conquest, he could learn to honor those sacrifices not by adding to them, but by figuring out how to live with them. The mission was complete. For the first time in his life, Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 had permission to find out what came next.